Welcome back, everyone. Today, I've got a special double feature for you. We're going back into the Undermine as we are watching Bitcoin roar in the last couple hours, up from 121,000. Now it's 122,800. And it is pushing toward all-time highs, which are at 123 and $100. We are within $300 of all-time highs. I just wanted to get you in on this stream, make sure you knew that that's where we're going. That's where we're at. So in the meantime, we're just gonna enjoy the Undermine and try not to pay too much attention as you can obviously get very excited. So, we'll try and beat this boss again, I guess. Maybe this will work. Yeah, hoping for that all-time high. We're gonna fight the boss. We're gonna listen to this podcast. We're good to go.
My dears.
Not that one. This one.
Bitcoin is eventually going to $60 million.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you think that will happen next year. Maybe you think that will happen 5 years from now. Maybe 20 years from now. But one way or the other, we all know it's going up forever, Laura, right? What do? You take all your money, you buy Bitcoin. You take all your time, you figure out how to borrow more money to buy more Bitcoin. Then you take all your time, figure out what you can sell to buy Bitcoin. And if you absolutely love the thing, go mortgage your house and buy Bitcoin with it, right? And in this case, I'm going to be talking about somebody that owned their house, probably remortgaged their house, and kept their house despite the world changing ever around them. Look at this cute little house you see on the screen here, right? This is Sydney, Australia, many years ago, right? You see all this farmland, right? But what if I knocked on their front door and I told them, hey, guess what, Mr. Homeowner? You have less in common with your near future than your ancient past. Maybe they would believe me, maybe not. This has been farmland for the last 4 generations and blah, 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 blah. But
took so much damage from that.
They had less in common with the future than the past. More and more homes were built near them. All the fields were cleared. All the crops were removed. And instead, all this suburbia encroached on them. But this one homeowner, this one family, decided to keep their estate. They decided to keep their home. And all the other homes took all the land, irreversibly changed the landscape. But they managed to keep what they had. And that home, that estate, is now worth $60 million, or at least according to the source that I found, right? It's a very valuable house, right? It's something that's very unique, and inherently most people will never have the ability to do that. And I think, obviously, there was a metaphor here with Bitcoin. If you are somebody that has the ability and authority, or has the ability and affordability to buy self-custody Bitcoin on layer 1, this is you, my friend. You are this homeowner, right? The rest of suburbia you see are going to be the people on higher layers, layer 2, layer 3, sidechain, whatever chain setups with Bitcoin. But you, my friend, are a UTXO holder. You own actual space on the blockchain. I don't think you understand how rare that is. There are 200 million transactions that can occur, more or less, in any given year on the Bitcoin blockchain. There are 300 million companies. If you gave 1 in 6 corporations in the world, 1 in 6 companies, in the world, the ability to make one on-chain transaction every single quarter, you would fill up the entire blockchain. The point is, there will probably be maybe 50 million UTXO entities on the planet, and probably a large number of them will be companies, right? You are not in the top 1% by owning a Bitcoin UTXO. You're probably more like in the top 0.2% or the 0.5%, right? Like, it's not like, 90% are going to have higher layer and 10% are going to have base layer. No, it's worse than that, right? It's so much worse, right? 1 in 500, 1 in 300, maybe 1 in 200 of the future global population is going to be able to hold their own keys on the base layer. Assuming we don't change the blockchain in the future, right? Which, of course, that's a whole debate with if, ands, or buts, but we're not going down that route. We're assuming Bitcoin remains as it is, more or less, in the future. Even though we know it will change, we're not going down that can of worms right now. The point is, you are very early to Bitcoin. You, right now, are at this point when it comes to where you are in Bitcoin, right? The block space is mostly empty. If you go to the mempool, if you look at what's actually going on, if you're running your own node, right? If you're doing all those things, right? And you look at the block space, you look at how many transactions are going on, you're seeing empty blocks. You're just looking around. Fields are empty. And it's going to be crazy 20 years from now, looking back and saying, oh my gosh, you're telling me that there were blocks with empty space? Whoa, That's unbelievable, right? You're telling me that not enough people were moving enough transactions on the base layer to have that, right? You're telling me that there were once fields, open fields without houses being built up? That's crazy. Whoa, you own multiple UTXOs? That's nuts, right? That's what it's going to be like. You're going to be able to brag, right? Right now, everybody's talking about, oh, get to 0.1 Bitcoin, right? That's what all the YouTubers are doing all the clickbait with, right? Oh, get to 0.1 Bitcoin, you'll be rich forever. Okay, sure, fine, they're not wrong, but a couple years ago it was get to 1 Bitcoin. Back in 2020 it was get to 10 Bitcoin, right? Guess what? A couple years from now it's going to be get to 0.01 Bitcoin. And 10 years from now, the new YouTube clickbait is going to be get a UTXO, right? Get your plot of land like you see in this image here, right? Get your share of base layer dirt, right? Get freaking grass before you don't have the option to get grass anymore, right? Get the dirt, get the base layer, get your share of owning an estate, of owning the land before all the other UTXOs are bought up by the layer 2s, the side chains, the corporations, or the whatevers to build upwards and to build layer 2s to service the other 99.5% of the global population. That is how early you are up to Bitcoin. And one of the craziest things I see right now is that people that are these homeowners, they sit here and they say, oh, I don't need self-custody yet, Luke, because I don't have enough Bitcoin. Really, what I hear when people say that is that, 90% of the time they're whining and they just don't appreciate what they have, right? They're being so irresponsible with what they currently own that, sure, you don't deserve to take self-custody yet because you're not respecting what you own, right? You're looking at all this grass, this dirt just sitting in, and you're whining that, oh, I wish I had more yard, where you don't understand that most people aren't going to have a yard in the future, right? If you have the ability to take possession of your on-chain Bitcoin, you better do it right now before somebody else takes it from you. Because as more and more of suburbia creeps in on you and more of these attackers come after that precious Bitcoin, those precious Satoshis, guess what? They're going to come after your potential UTXO and they're going to take it from you. It's something people complain about a lot. Luke, I don't want to take self-custody yet because I'm scared somebody will steal it from me once I get it off the exchange. Okay, fine. Well, guess what? It's more likely they steal it from you when it's on the exchange, right? Do you understand? Do you understand that? It's not like that, oh, when you're in an exchange, you're magically safe. It's like, no, actually, it's the opposite, right? If I was a malicious, evil, bad person, I would not go after the person in multi-sig. I would not even go after the person in single sig unless they had a very large amount of Bitcoin. I would go after the person sitting on an exchange. All I need is their email address or login info, maybe do a little cute little SIM card swap real quick, and all of a sudden, I get their account. It is terrifying to me when I meet somebody that has a tenth of a Bitcoin, half a Bitcoin, a whole Bitcoin, 5 Bitcoin, 20 Bitcoin, and in some cases, I know many of you won't believe me and say, oh, Luke, you're out of touch, whatever. People sometimes have literally dozens, if not hundreds of Bitcoin sitting on an exchange, even, yes, still today, right? That is why the attackers go after people with Coinbase apps, not in self-custody, right? If you are delaying and procrastinating your Bitcoin self-custody because you're ungrateful enough that you don't own enough private land on the base layer, you do not deserve that land, and it is going to be stolen from you. This is my encouragement. I'm not trying to be too negative. I'm not trying to beat you up too much, but I'm trying to, smack some sense in you because you clearly don't have it right now, right? This is my focus, and this is why I strongly encourage you to take self-custody of your Bitcoin. The reason you have not had your Bitcoin stolen from you if it's sitting on an exchange is not because it's secure, it is because nobody's checked it out yet, right? We are in this very early era of Bitcoin. You want to have global Bitcoin adoption where all suburbia comes in and it makes your little Bitcoin worth $60 million a coin, right? You want that world? Guess what? You get all the positive, wonderful stuff and all the scary, negative, terrifying stuff, okay? You want hyper Bitcoin acceleration where we go from this many Bitcoiners to 10 times as many Bitcoiners? Guess what? You're going to get 10 times the scammers as well. You're going to get 10 times the AI bot farms coming after you as well. You're going to get 10 times the phishing attacks as well. This is exactly what's going to happen. The only reason that your Bitcoin's sitting on an exchange right now, accessible in your phone or via your email login, the only reason it hasn't been stolen yet is because some hacker or some scammer somewhere else in the world is making more money taking advantage of grannies in some gift card scheme than they are going after you. As soon as that incentive shifts, and the faster your Bitcoin appreciates in value, the faster you become a honeypot, the faster you become a target. The reason it hasn't happened to you isn't because it is difficult, but because you're not big enough of a honeypot yet. And the more bullish you are in Bitcoin, and the more Bitcoin you want to buy, the faster the more concerned you should be. Do not go to a Bitcoin conference with over roughly 50 grand worth in Bitcoin on an exchange, okay? Let alone $1 million. It is terrifying to me when I go to Bitcoin meetups or Bitcoin conferences and somebody will say, Luke, I love your videos. It's awesome. Don't be mad at me, but I've got 100, I got half a coin. I got 2 coins. I got, 0.2 coins. I got whatever, on my exchange or whatever, right? And they tell me this. And with all due respect, I look at them and I try to be as loving and respectful as possible, giving them a healthy dose of fear, but not too much. And I tell them, do you understand that if I pointed a gun at you right now, like I could just steal 70 grand or whatever the dollar number is, right? Like, do you understand? It's like, you're a target not based upon how much Bitcoin you have. You're a target based upon how much Bitcoin you have relative to the risk. An evil, malicious bad guy is going to go after somebody with $10,000 of Bitcoin that's super easy to get, versus somebody with $1 million of Bitcoin that's exceedingly hard to get. Because guess what? There's plenty of money in the former, right? And people have this entirely backwards. You have to keep in mind, again, return versus risk, right? The bad guys, this is exactly what they're thinking, right? So please, for goodness sakes, I know this is true for a lot of you, even if you only have 1/10 of a Bitcoin, even if you only have 5% of a Bitcoin, get off exchanges and upgrade your self-custody as fast as possible. I would strongly recommend, if you're going to do that, upgrade to a multi-jurisdictional, multi-sig vault with 0 single point of failure, right? The relative scarcity.
Bitcoin is racing up. It's almost at all-time highs. Ethereum's almost at all-time highs. Solana just went up 15% yesterday alone. I want to explain what's happening right now, some re-ratings of cryptocurrencies, some banks now saying that they're almost doubling their price targets. We'll also be going through some of the big flows from yesterday. And I also want to go through a recent announcement from Trump that Fox is saying is pushing up the cryptocurrency market right now, which I totally agree with. And also Tom Lee talking about what's happening right now in the market. He mentions Bitcoin a handful of times, talks about Ethereum. He puts out a very high price target on Ethereum as well. So I'll be playing all that for you. If you don't mind, please hit subscribe so you can see future videos just like this one. If you want to trade crypto, now's the time. Now is the time. Check out BYDeFi underneath the video. You can start trading in just a few minutes because they don't KYC. You don't need a VPN. Recently, we opened up a 60x position on Bitcoin when we flipped this into support. I did add a little bit more margin, so it was more like 25x. We closed it just a few days ago and put it into a 3x just to, reduce the risk a little bit, but we also doubled how much we had in the trade because we made 100% on the 60x. So, you can constantly roll trades like that to lower risk as well once you're up a significant amount. And we have this trading competition going on right now. It's not even really a competition because it's just free money. Every $1 million that anyone trades that has used one of my links increases the prize pool by $100, and that will go out to people at the end of this 25-day left period, 26 days left. We just gave away over $6,000 of XRP. We gave away thousands of dollars of Bitcoin before that. We constantly run these, and it's not just for new users. So check this out underneath the video. Now's a great time with so much volatility and so much momentum. I think you can make a significant amount, but you have to know what you're doing as well. So let's start here. The traditional markets are up again today. The NASDAQ up 0.25%. Not bad. It's even come down a little bit since the open, but still rallying most likely off of the CPI numbers yesterday. They came in lower than expected. We have PPI tomorrow, so don't be surprised if there's a bit of volatility around that. Obviously, everyone in crypto seems to be watching Ethereum. Ethereum very close to all-time highs. It just hit $4,750 or just short of that, maybe $4,740, which is just $100 away from all-time highs. It's looking really good, and you can see so much strength recently. Don't be surprised if we see a little bit of a pullback. I talked with Tyler Hill about this yesterday. Don't be surprised if we get rejected, fall down a little bit, reset the RSI, or even come down to 4,000, flip the end to support. I would not be surprised if that happened. That's why actually yesterday I said one of my favorite trades, or one that I've been thinking about a lot recently, was Solana. This is before it went on its run of 15% yesterday. It was at 180, and I said, I think it could run pretty hard with Ethereum being what everyone's looking at. Naturally, people will go to Solana next, and no one really seems to be that bullish on Solana right now. So, yeah, what do you know? It went up 10% now. Ethereum is the belle of the ball right now. People aren't even really paying attention to Bitcoin or talking about it as much. and it's right at all-time highs too. Standard Chartered Bank raised its 2025 year-end ETH price target to $7,500. This was from 4,000. I think this makes people bullish, but I just hate it. Like when analysts or banks are below the current price of an asset that's going up significantly, they all of a sudden just raise the price target. And it's just annoying because it's like they don't do that ahead of time. They don't go out on a limb and say, hey,
Now picture this. Bitcoin split in two, not a fork of the network, a price fork. One approved Bitcoin wrapped in an ETF, tracked and packaged for Wall Street, and another Bitcoin, free, self-custody, unconfiscatable, living in cyberspace, outside the reach of any government. It's not just a thought experiment. Samson Mao says we could see it, and if it happens, we might get two Bitcoin prices, just like Argentina's official dollar rate versus the black market blue dollar.
Tweeted about Bitcoin being split, bifurcated into approved Bitcoin, the Bitcoin that's in ETFs and in funds, versus free Bitcoin, which is the self-custodied, freely circulating Bitcoin outside of the control of institutions. And I think that possibility is still there. We'll see how it plays out for sure. But I don't see Bitcoin possibly being captured because Bitcoin will always exist outside the system. Bitcoin within the system, within the financial system, is an arbitrary construct. But the natural state of Bitcoin is free flowing outside of anyone's control. And I don't think that will change at any time. You might have a good portion of Bitcoin locked up in ETFs and whatnot, or in nation state treasuries, but you also have a good portion not in treasuries. So I don't see it as an existential risk. There could be this separation in the future, but then you'll just have two different prices for Bitcoin, just like Argentina has two different prices for the dollar blue and then the official dollar rate.
ETFs, governments, corporate treasuries, and exchanges already hold nearly a third of the known Bitcoin supply, and that number's growing. So what happens if Wall Street's Bitcoin is one price and your Bitcoin's another? We're breaking it down, then diving into the monster bullish signals this week. Price action, Sailor stacking again, Harvard stacking big, the Fed's next move, and oh yeah, Trump's move to abolish the IRS.
Hell yeah. Abolish the IRS. Let's go.
All right. Let's start with the big one. Samson Mao says the institutionalization of Bitcoin, ETFs, corporate treasuries, sovereign buys could cause what's called an Argentine split. That's what you get when you get an official market price and a free market price. Argentina had it with the US dollar. The official rate was cheaper. The blue dollar was way more expensive because it was the real rate in a free market. Now imagine BlackRock's IBIT, Fidelity's FBTC, MicroStrategy's holdings, all approved, custodied, and controlled. That's one price. Then there's your Bitcoin on your hardware wallet, your multi-sig outside the system. That's another price. And remember, already by December, ETFs, governments, exchanges, strategy, and treasuries already held nearly a third of the known Bitcoin supply. If that creeps up to 40-50%, Wall Street has their pool and we have ours. This makes self-custody even more valuable because the day those two prices diverge, you don't want to be the one holding the approved paper claim on Bitcoin. And at the end of the day, with Bitcoin and self-custody, everything is bullish for Bitcoin. The great fiat exploitation will continue.
The strategy has shown us that there is a glitch in the matrix and you can get infinite money. Basically, that's what it is. Zero interest loans are infinite money. So as more companies find these kind of glitches, they'll tap into them. Metaplanet's another example. It's partially regulatory based because buying spot is punitive. So people will just buy Metaplanet for exposure. So I think there are different glitches in different regions and jurisdictions that let companies tap into this money glitch. And that is good for Bitcoin because it accelerates hyper-Bitcoinization. It accelerates the global wealth that is flowing into Bitcoin.
Now let's talk price. Bitcoin is sitting just under its all-time high as of this recording, but it's already hitting new highs in the UK, Canada, Japan, Argentina, Nigeria, and more. And the bears? They're getting slaughtered. 333 million in shorts just got wiped. At 125K, another 14 billion get liquidated. That's a trapdoor to Valhalla. Oh, and did you see? Harvard's in. Yeah, the Harvard Endowment just disclosed a $116 million position in BlackRock's IBIT, their fifth biggest holding, bigger than Alphabet and Nvidia. Brown University's in. Emory's in. Michigan's pension fund nearly tripled its Bitcoin ETF stack. Even Abu Dhabi's sovereign wealth fund is in. BlackRock's IBIT is now the second largest holder of Bitcoin in the world, behind only Satoshi. And the ETFs are already holding more than 7% of all Bitcoin. This is hyper-Bitcoinization creeping in through the front door. It's happening in broad daylight, and Michael Saylor's at it again. $18 million more in Bitcoin added to the pile. 5 years ago, he started with 250 million. Today, 628,791 BTC. That's almost 3% of all Bitcoin. And MicroStrategy stock is up 2,600% in those 5 years. And he's not slowing down. He said he's going to raise another 84 billion over the next 2 years to keep buying. Like he said, if you don't stop buying Bitcoin, you won't stop making money. And he also said this.
On some of the other big news from today, a lot has certainly happened on this Friday, but one of those is what's going on in the gold market right now. You have the Trump administration ruling that gold bars will be subject to tariffs as well, these reciprocal tariffs. So imports of gold will be tariffed. And that's really sending shockwaves through the gold ecosystem. Gold and Bitcoin are also often compared to one another. Bitcoin called digital gold, for example. I wonder if you think this has any ripple effects, positive or negative, for Bitcoin.
It does. Bitcoin is digital gold. It's going to accelerate the migration of capital from physical gold to digital gold. Bitcoin lives in cyberspace. No tariffs in cyberspace. The big appeal of Bitcoin is it's not physical. It doesn't have weight. You can settle anywhere with anybody in a few minutes. And so gold has always been too heavy, too slow, and you can't really ship it across an ocean. And if you do, now you're getting tariffs. So I really think it just reminds everybody why the digital version of gold is better than actual physical gold. And I think it's going to catalyze a new wave of institutional adoption of Bitcoin.
All right. Crypto is stateless. It's hard to tariff. Michael, have to leave it there. Really enjoyed speaking with you, though. That is Strategy Executive Chairman Michael Saylor.
You can't tariff digital coin. And now JP Morgan now says the Fed will cut rates in September and 4 more times this year. Markets have almost 90% odds of September cuts.
All right, Fox News Alert now as we take a look at the markets with just a couple hours left in trading. The Dow is up 223 points. This says JP Morgan is now forecasting an interest rate cut in September and 4 more by the end of the year. Okay, so markets are taking all of this in. In the meantime, Charles Payne is here to make sense of this. Charles Payne of making money.
Yeah.
Because people are looking to make money in this environment. And it seems, even when we ran our very unscientific poll on our show Twitter account, what is most concerning to you right now? Is it prices? Is it employment?
Love this map.
Overwhelming majority said it's interest rates coming down. So do you believe that this is the case, that we're going to see several cuts by the end of the year?
Absolutely. Everything changed on a Friday morning at 8:30 when those job numbers came down and those revisions came down, because right at that point, the consensus was September, there's maybe a 30% chance of a rate cut. Overwhelmingly, everyone sees that. Now, you talk about 4, that means there's going to be at least 150 basis point cut. That starts to add a sense of urgency. That really tells you, by the way, if the Fed has to do that, that will really be so damning for Jay Powell, because his position, anytime they have to do more than 25 basis points, it means that they're behind, right? It will sort of cement the notion that, Jay Powell was late yet again. And to your point, why do so many people care? This is what makes me so angry with the Federal Reserve. They always look at us as a whole nation. Small businesses, we have to refinance under these higher rates this year. Many can't do it. They can't make payroll, so you have small businesses that are hurting. You have individuals that are hurting. We just got a couple days ago from the New York Fed delinquency rates. All of them are spiking. So It's one of these things that Main Street America needs. And now you're seeing more evidence in the labor market, which is one of their key jobs, of course, for the Federal Reserve.
And remember, Trump already unlocked retirement accounts for Bitcoin exposure. That's $1.2 trillion in capital that just got the green light. And the IRS, well, they appear to be on the chopping block. We're about to bring it home today, but before we do, look at our likes.
3 or 4 times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pamp while we take a moment to recognize our sponsors powering this show over at the Bitcoin Way. While the institutions keep stacking and the government might approve their Bitcoin, you know what's better than approved? Free. Free from control, free from confiscation, and free from anyone telling you when you can spend, send, or anything for that matter. That's why self-custody matters, and that's why we work with the Bitcoin Way. They'll walk you through taking control of your Bitcoin safely, privately, and without headaches. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. Period. Use that link in the show notes to schedule a free 30-minute consultation and get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into self-custody today. And once you've secured your Bitcoin, here's how to make it work for you without selling a single sat. Life comes at you fast, and if you ever need to tap into your Bitcoin's value without selling it, boom. You're holding pristine collateral. That's where Ledden comes in. Ledden has funded over $10 billion in Bitcoin-backed loans since 2018. No monthly payments, no penalties, just flexibility. You control your loan, you control your Bitcoin. Collateral is never lent out to generate interest. And every 6 months, proof of reserves. It's simple. If you need cash but don't want to sell your precious corn, Ledden has your back. Check out Ledden Bitcoin-backed loans done right. Go to learn.ledden.io/simply, and Simply Bitcoin clients will get 25 basis points off their first loan. Big finish time. And this one's wild. Trump installs Scott Bessent as IRS commissioner. Same day, Dan Scavino calls to abolish the IRS. And you know, I was thinking back to things Lutnick had said, actions they've taken, hints that they've dropped. And my friends, the abolishment of the IRS is on the table.
Think about it. Donald Trump announces the External Revenue Service, and his goal is very simple. His goal is to abolish the Internal Revenue Service and let all the outsiders pay.
Do you believe at some point in time we could find a way, once the country's back on its feet and getting enough revenue and paid off our debt, do you think it's possible to find a way to eliminate federal taxes?
There is a way. There is a way. I mean, if what I'm planning comes out, it's a great question, by the way.
Everyone could attain the
pretty sophisticated.
And yeah, I have a real shot. We're taking in tremendous amounts of money. The answer is yeah. I think there's a real shot. I actually say there's a shot at, we have the Internal Revenue Service. We could use the External Revenue Service, and we wouldn't even need the Internal Revenue Service.
Can we reform taxes to eliminate the need to file?
Well, it's possible. If the tariffs work out really well, you wouldn't need income tax. You know that. If tariffs work out well, our country at its richest was from 1870 to 1913. That was the richest, and we were an all-tariff nation.
And it's possible we'll do a complete tax cut, because I think the tariffs will be enough to cut all of the income tax.
Scotty B is already on the record saying the U.S. is going big on Bitcoin. Imagine cutting rates, nuking the IRS, and rolling out a strategic Bitcoin reserve all in the same year.
We are going big on digital assets. So Trump administration has made digital assets a priority. Past administration starved and almost made extinct a lot of these companies and pushed it offshore. So what we want to do is apply the highest U.S. regulatory and AML standards to digital assets.
Well, it is definitely not impossible. Look, Max Kaiser says put your net worth in Bitcoin and we'll get world peace. Robert Kiyosaki says bonds are a scam and Bitcoin's going to $1 million. And look around. Institutions are stampeding in, sailors stacking like a madman, and the Fed is about to flood the market with cheap money. We are watching the great migration of wealth from the fiat system into the Bitcoin system. And if you want to see the future of Bitcoin in action, the world's biggest Bitcoin mining conference, live demos, insane new rigs, and the people who are literally securing the network are heading to Dallas, Texas, November 11th through the 13th. Meet the legends building the hash power revolution, from sovereign mining to AI AI Bitcoin integration. Prepare to have your mind blown. Grab those tickets today and come see Simply Bitcoin on the news desk. Oh, and don't forget to use promo code SimplyBitcoin for 20% off. Argentine split or not, there's only one Bitcoin that matters, the one you control. Wall Street can have their approved coins. We'll take the freedom. Hey, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pamp by sharing the Sound Money Gospel. Set those notifications for the best in Bitcoin news delivered to you daily. And let us know what you think of the Argentine.
People are going to immediately think, oh, wow, Gary just had a lot of money. Well, that's just not true. I didn't have any money. I worked for $27,000 a year. Believing that you have to stay in one industry is a complete myth. I actually believe we have been lied to, that we can learn anything. I think gold gets targeted. People don't make money being diversified. Move everything I possibly can. You guys are out of your mind if you don't think Bitcoin can move in an extremely short period of time.
What if everything you thought you knew about success was actually holding you back? That's the lessons that Gary learned and turned from a $27,000 a year worker into a Bitcoin multimillionaire. In this video, we're diving into Gary's playbook for success in a world that's changing rapidly. From rewriting the rules in the natural gas industry to going all in on Bitcoin, Gary's story is proof that adaptability and focus can build real wealth. Coming up, we'll reveal why Gary says US miners are about to hit a wall and who's set to take over the Bitcoin mining game. Then he shares his top strategies for stacking sats and building wealth in 2025, even if you're starting from nothing. And finally, his no-holds-barred market outlook and where he thinks Bitcoin is headed. If you want to unlock Gary's secrets to success and accelerate your Bitcoin accumulation, stick around to the end, you'll thank me later. Going beyond Bitcoin to bring you the skills and insights you need to escape the fiat matrix, this is Mentor Sessions. Awesome. Well, Gary, thank you so much for joining me today. Now, I know that a lot of people listening are going to want the price predictions and everything that you have, you're projecting for the future. But before we get into that stuff, you have a very interesting past, and a few things really stood out to me. So for people that aren't familiar, even maybe going as far back as like working in nat gas, can you tell me a little bit about your history in entrepreneurship and business and what kind of led you to here?
Yeah, sure. So I studied economics and marketing in college. Immediately leaving school, I had no clue what I was going to do. I was a C student. And I was a C student just because I wasn't really interested. I'm actually an A student if I have a great teacher and a great subject. That took me a long time to realize, actually. I thought I was just dumb and a bad student until I actually got in the real world. But I got a job in the natural gas business and working in Corpus Christi, Texas. Got the job in Houston. And it was a little satellite operation. It would actually define most of my next steps in my career. It was a little satellite office of a large corporation. My boss was 29. And I was 21, going on 12. Natural gas contracts were this long, this big, dude. Like simple birds, $7.32. Prices were fixed. If you drilled to a certain depth, you got a premium. Natural gas is natural gas, okay? It doesn't matter. It burns exactly the same. I remember looking at my boss. I couldn't have been 22 years old, Nathan. And this is a pipeline. And right next to the pipeline was a well that Conoco was drilling. And Conoco, the next closest pipeline was like 70 miles away. I went to my boss and I said, hey, look, instead of giving them $7.35, which was the dictated contract price that no one would compete with each other, I said, why don't we give them $7.25? And he's like, we don't trade on nickels and dimes. Our job was to fill a 2 billion cubic feet a day pipe.
Wow.
And he didn't care about 5 cents or 10. And it wasn't really him, it was the whole industry.
Everyone was like that.
The regulator would come in under Reagan and issue an order. And that order, I'm stunned that people believe that governments can't change everything overnight. The order was called FERC Order 431, I think, or 478. And it basically said that if you have bought 30-year natural gas from Mobil Oil Company in a, legal binding contract, all of you guys can throw those contracts away. We're not gonna go legal on them. We're opening the market. We think you guys have been creating a little club, making a tremendous amount of margins on very little risk. It's time to open the market. Today, the price of natural gas is $3 because we have competition. Today, we have something called fracking that occurred because of low oil prices, not high oil prices, low oil prices. Low natural gas prices drove innovation to do it better, faster, more efficiently. And that's what I love about proper markets. And so the natural gas market, I basically lucked into a highly disruptive environment. It was just, my timing was perfect. And because I didn't have any baggage from the prior 30 years of oil and gas, the way the club works, look, all organisms operate on some principles, right? And if 9 out of 10 players aren't really competing and they're all like, hey, we're all making 12%, guess what happens? Behavior of that club, whether you have a meeting or not, is, hey, let's all protect our margins. Because who's the enemy? The enemy is actually the guy buying the product from you. That's the
mindset.
Yeah, exactly. It's a zero-sum game, right? I've got to take something from someone. The cool thing about competition that I learned after 25 years was that if one human being with the right mental construct, and it is amazing how a few human beings can change something. I would suggest that no more than 200 men completely transform the way natural gas and electricity trade around the world, man, between the age of 92 and 2000. The whole, what y'all call the Enron era, That was a massive, massive reformation. Looks quite a bit like crypto, actually.
Really?
Oh, dude, the parallels of the transfer of energy to a 30-minute cycle from a 30-year cycle. They used to say, hey, we need 30-year contracts, otherwise we'll never have the capital. And the capital will not come in and do these big oil programs and these big pipe programs, right? So we need 30 years. Today, power trade, electricity, the most violent commodity on the planet, trades on a 30-minute cycle, and nat gas trades on a 30-day cycle. There are no 10-year contracts, dude. Like none. It's all spot. And that makes the market work really, really, really effectively. If you can do that, this is my premise, and this is what got me. A lot of people go, hey, dude, you came into crypto, and you came in hard, like really hard. And the reason is, I think, my understanding of how disruptive a thought, much less technology, can impact a very large industry. Like the energy business is more important than money. Okay, you don't print money without energy. There is no Fed without natural gas. Okay, there's no Bitcoin without power. There's not a credit card without power. So if we could transform that, where you still think the top 10 oil producers in the world are American companies, that is not true at all, man. ExxonMobil is not in the top 10.
Who's the top position now?
It's
the
sovereigns, which is exactly why I can be so confident that the sovereigns will be Bitcoin miners, and they will be the only Bitcoin miners that actually survive. You will have zero cost energy on your balance sheet, otherwise you're not going to survive Bitcoin. And I know this pisses the Bitcoin miners off, but it's just true. And it's true, all you have to do is go look at what happens in energy. No one guarantees ExxonMobil to make a premium or a margin. Wow, what's happened to Bitcoin miners? I have seen producers of energy lose money for 4 years. Okay, just lose and lose and lose for 4 years because the price is just too low. And they can't stop drilling because guess what they do? Just like miners, drillers drill and miners mine. This is what they do. They went to school. My job is mining. Nothing to do with margins. So long piece of story, but you get thrown into the energy complex and then you see it completely deregulated, completely changed over 25, 30 years. And I will tell you today, the energy players only enjoyed about half of what they could have enjoyed. Most industry players, in fact, I would say 99% of them underestimate the change that's going to occur during a disruptive period. And it is a monster. I've seen 4 of these. This is the monster of all disruptions.
That's fascinating. There's so much I want to pull on there. And actually, one thing I want to touch on, because I've had this idea in the back of my mind for a while. I'm curious with your experience, what you think of it too, is that I agree. I think the mining industry as we see it today is not the way it's going to be sustained over time. And that ultimately, I think the biggest players in mining, I completely came to the same conclusion, will be energy companies. And even beyond that, I don't think that the mining pools that we see today will be what we see going down the road as well too. Because if you're a major energy producer and you've got zero cost on that energy, why would you want to take any risk with a pool when you could just do your pool yourself if you have enough hash power behind it? I think the mining companies, to avoid geographical risk of like operating with a pool that is somewhere outside of, say, the US, will end up not only being the energy providers, but they'll operate their own pools as well too. And we'll see that kind of monopoly currently break up as a result of it.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because the US miners, I actually think mining on scale is the problem. Mm-hmm. That micro mining, I've been very, very negative micro. I'm actually starting to believe micro mining might be the only guys that make it, which is bizarre because normally scale helps you. But all these American miners are really struggling with keeping operations up. And this is the piece this is why people like me and Michael Saylor are not going to become miners because it's cheaper to buy Bitcoin. I can buy Bitcoin for $110,000 right now and Marathon can't produce it for $137. Whoa, right. $137. Bro, you were begging for $100,000 prices, and now you can't produce for $137. Why? Oh, they decided a year ago to produce Caspa, whatever you call it. Like, bro, you keep changing. And I like Fred and the whole team, but like these players are changing their business plans about every 3 months, man. Okay, I'm doing this now. I'm doing this. Oh, I'm in a Bitcoin reserve company. This is getting just because you have Bitcoin on your balance sheet doesn't mean it's magic cocaine that you don't get addicted to, right? Like, I mean. This game is becoming very, very complicated. And if you look at the people that are actually making all the money, they're taking the least amount of risk.
I wonder if it's the kind of thing where like Bitcoin mining can't be your primary source of revenue. Like it can't be your primary business. It has to be almost like tangential to something else like energy production, where you can use it as a tool to, monetize stranded energy or excess energy or things like that. But if you make it your main focus, it's just too competitive, too ever changing, and at scale, maybe even just inefficiencies of having a major company. Like perhaps it's just the bloat from HR and admin and all these other things that come into play when you scale up too big that it's not competitive for mining. I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I think it will be competitive for miners at scale, but it'll be because their cost is zero. And by zero, I mean, I think 23% of the energy on this planet never gets to the consumer. 23%. Now, 3 years ago, I was talking about flare gas. Not that now everybody's talking about flare gas. I've never believed flare gas was going to be a big deal for Bitcoin mining. Because one, where all the flare gas is the problem is it's not in one central location. That's a problem. So now you're going to just end up with small, but it is a really good painting. The picture of, oh, wow, flare gas. Never thought about that. Gosh, there's a lot of flare gas going up in there. Exactly. That is wasted energy. that could be converted to something else. But let's think about more practical things. It costs $3 a year to store a unit of natural gas. The cost of natural gas in the United States is about $3. So if I'm Howard, is it Howard Ham, one of the biggest midstream guys, big oil producer? He probably every year buys storage, rents storage, because in the off season, in the spring and the fall, the demand for natural gas goes down. He wants to sell 100 units every day. But the demand from the pipelines is 100 units in Christmas time, 100 units in the summer. But I only need 48 in the offspring, in spring and autumn. Well, he'll spend money with a third party, Columbia, to store the freaking gas. When if he had an electric generator or a generator sitting there at the platform, he could literally not buy storage at 50 cents, 30 cents a month, mine Bitcoin, have a capital expenditure that he can depreciate. By the way, he's already got all the land that he could possibly want. He gets to pick wherever he decides to go relative to his cost base, his tax base. I mean, there's so many things he could look at. And he's not spending $3 with a freaking Columbia. Now, they'll never spend $3. They spend 6 months of the year, 3 months of the year, but $1. Why are you spending $1 on a $3 product when you could convert it to Bitcoin, stick it on Howard's balance sheet? He's already got crude oil and nat gas on his balance sheet. You don't think he can take Bitcoin and stick it on? He doesn't need FASB, dude. He's already got FASB. His shareholders understand commodity. This will make real estate look like a piece of shit when it comes together on Bitcoin.
I want to tease out that.
I mean, this is big, dude. Like, if you think my brother was like, hey, I met with Ham, and I'm like, bro, the energy complex for Bitcoin is so massive. It has been sold to that complex so poorly. And the energy that has been bought by miners from the energy complex, horrible deals.
Really?
Yes, because they've never sat down and thought, how does a guy that sells energy for an oil company make his bonus, man? What is his bonus tied to? And because they're not energy guys. And if they were thinking about this commercially, there's a way to commercially construct deals with energy players. But I think it's going to be too late for the U.S. miners. I think the U.S. energy complex will look at this and go, I don't really need you guys. Because what are they providing? Chicken coops that they call AI centers. Now, that will never go to an AI center, man. It's a chicken coop compared to a hospital. One's got like very high grade quality protection, sterilization. The other one's like, oh wow, look, we found a volcano, man. Build a miner. So these are really, really different. Like, the energy company's not even going to do that. They're going to be like, dude, I'm going to get sued. So they will all be state of the art. Carbon sequestration. Carbon sequestration is a ridiculous use of money. Okay, you're going to go buy land, drill a hole in it, stick a bunch of carbon back into the ground. You could just mine Bitcoin. I mean, these are $500 million projects, and they're subsidized by the government. It's outrageous what they're doing. And that's where we should be focused on. Hey, no subsidies for anything, dude. Fuck that. Zero subsidies. Why would you do a subsidy if you can use Bitcoin? It's not cool. Like, it's just inefficient. But the oil companies, if they're encouraged by the U.S. regs and by carbon bullshit and all this green stuff, if they're encouraged and the government's going to give them $500 million, you can't blame Oxy for building a freaking carbon sequestration facility.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to do that, let's go build desalinization plants and get some clean water out of the ocean. It's no more expensive, man.
Okay, I want to jump in there because there's a few things, and I want to jump back to a little bit more in your history, and then I'll pull it forward. And there's a reason I'm doing it, because I'm curious what you think overall the hesitation or the blind spot, if it maybe is just the incentives of like subsidies and other things that are preventing or holding back the energy industry. But when I was looking into your past, I noticed that there was a couple of things there. And it stood out to me that like you were the prime candidate to get Bitcoin. We had the starting out in the energy industry, and if I understand correctly, you were involved in some standardizing of cross-border energy trading at some point as well too. So you get energy, you get the importance of protocols and standardization. You've also got the real estate investment background, so sound money there as well too. I believe you spent some time in finance as well, and then most currently you're directly involved in tech. It was like all the major industries that could benefit from Bitcoin, which it made perfect sense to me why you would seemingly go at this so hard.
Right.
And so I'm curious then, between like the energy industry, the real estate investors, the tech companies, and like the finance as well too, which one do you think is primed to maybe be the next one to really jump into this? Is it energy? Is there something in their existing framework that's really holding them back?
I think all of these, one, your research was good and you picked it up very quickly. In fact, I would say that the last 12 years I spent building a business in fraud in the payments industry. I know these all sound really desperate and very different. They are. They are really different. And I think one of the messages is there. I think growing up and believing that you have to stay in one industry forever and ever is a complete myth. In fact, I would say it is an absolute trap. And here I am, C student, economics, marketing background, nothing special. I said yes to a lot of things, and I said no to a lot of things. And that led me to 4 industries that I was able to really stick my beak into. I mean, really go down, understand it. The payments industry showed me, one, how fraudulent banking is.
Yep.
Anything you think about how fraudulent, I just say it because I'm too old, they can come fuck with me, they already are. But anything you think about the banking industry is far worse.
Let me break this down for my fellow Bitcoiners. In just 8 weeks, I've seen a serious shift. More strength, more energy, and fast muscle gains. The reason? FitScript. They ran 124 biomarkers, blood, hormones, inflammation, and built a fully custom plan. Nutrition, training, supplements. No guesswork, no templates. This is functional medicine meets precision fitness for high-performing men who want sovereignty over their health. If you care about optimization the way you care about your money, test, don't guess. Don't trust, verify. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen to check out FitScript and see what's possible.
Are you still delaying taking self-custody of your Bitcoin? Do you feel secure in your current Bitcoin setup? If something were to happen to you, would your stack make it to your loved ones? At Bitcoin Mentor, we've helped thousands of people level up their Bitcoin security and fast-track their understanding. If you find that you simply don't have the time to go through all the books, the tutorials, the guides, you can book a free one-on-one strategy session with myself, Gary, or any of the other great mentors by visiting bitcoinmentor.io. Scan the QR code or simply click the link in the description down below to find out how Ben and the entire expert team at Bitcoin Mentor can help you accelerate your Bitcoin journey. Use promo code BTC Sessions for 10% off.
Anything you think about the banking industry is far worse. It is horrific. It is horrifically inefficient. And since all these people are so smart and they've got so many MBAs, and you know who I'm talking about, you either are so incompetent it's ridiculous, or you're grossly mischievous and you're abusing your clients.
Wow.
Because it's horrendous, dude. There's trillions of dollars of fees that you and other consumers are paying. They're just complete crimes.
Talking about banking fraud in particular, one of the things that stood out to me, maybe this is what you're referring to, maybe this is related, but your company Chargeback 911, that also seemed like the perfect, what do you call, probably example of why we need final settlement and digital payments. And I'm wondering if that's kind of tied into what you're talking about, what you saw in the banking system and financial system beforehand.
Yeah, I mean, look, that particular fraud, half of that fraud is not even real.
Really?
It's literally plumbing problems.
Really?
And by plumbing problems, I mean a consumer receipt. I have something at my front door, dude. It's something, some wine glasses. I didn't order any wine. It's got my name on it. It may have been maybe my credit card. I'm not going to go and call American Express and go file a chargeback. I'm going to do some investigation. Most people just go straight to their bank, Citibank, dispute. So there's 600 million of these events a year, dude. Billions of dollars. And then you start looking in Visa, MasterCard's books and you're like, oh, wow. Now let's see. Visa makes a 51% operating margin and $8 billion.
51%?
They're a 50-year-old company, bro.
Yeah.
They're not a tech company. Okay. They're not NVIDIA.
Yeah.
51% gross operating margin. 8 billion or so of their 22 billion is from value-added services, man. And value-added services inside of that is fraud protection. Visa was allowed to buy a company called Verify, and then MasterCard was allowed to buy a company called Ethica. Both of them sell this fraud tool. MasterCard makes 40% of their 18 billion or so, 12, whatever their number is. It's a huge number of margin. A good 40% of that, I think 8 billion of the 22 or something, is from 12 of the 22 is from value-added services. And so this is like, okay, I didn't really invest in the highway, but I own the rights to the highway. If you get on the highway, I get a fee for the transaction. If you get off the highway and you do a refund or a chargeback, I make a fee. Oh, by the way, if anyone steals, I have no exposure whatsoever. Visa and MasterCard have never lost a penny in 50 years. There's zero risk, okay? And they're adding 300 basis points, 3% at least, to the whole. And why I say plumbing, because the payment rails were set up for you and I not to do this, but you and I, me to walk into your store, give you my credit card, give you my signature, and maybe a license if the transaction was high, and it was to avoid all the problems from cash and checks. But now we're right back to 8 plus 10% of friction associated with trillions of transactions across MasterCard and Visa, because they did not build a system for anonymous transactions, microtransactions, trillions of not card present, non-present card transactions. It was not built for this. This is literally, they're pretending like the payment rails were built for high speed. They're not, okay? And they're literally, this is friction. It is noise. It is inconsistency. It is no standards. I have spent hours with both Visa and MasterCard telling them how to fix this problem I could erase disputes 50% tomorrow morning.
How?
You centralize the activity, and you remove the decentralized capability of a duopoly, MasterCard and Visa, to sell products that obfuscate what's actually going on. And it's not fraud, okay? It is not. Starbucks gets 50,000 chargebacks a month.
Whoa.
Why? Because they're $8 transactions, and Starbucks will continue to get these because they never argue over them. Because the margin for them to fight that $8 chargeback, one, they're gonna lose a lifetime customer. So they just look at it and go, fuck it, man. I don't want to piss Gary off. My coffee's already bad. It's overpriced. The service shit, okay? Yeah. And I've got some ginky white, looks like a dead human being with ear piercings coming out of their brains that won't even look me in the face. Yeah, I'll file a chargeback and they're not going to say shit, okay? Mm-hmm. The problem is when I get on that Southwest Airlines flight and their coffee is shit, I got a refund on Starbucks. I'm going to file a refund too on Southwest Airlines. See, the pretend thing is these rules are so complicated and people expect that a consumer thinks a transaction on an airline and a transaction in Starbucks is different. It's a freaking transaction. And Visa and MasterCard love making these transactions appear to be different, like adult. They get 400% more on an adult transaction than they do some groceries. Why? If it's a legal transaction, okay? If porn's either legal or not. Okay, so like if it's legal, why are you having to pay more? Gaming, gambling, all this moves to crypto, right? And it moves to crypto because the fees that a guy like, anyone, OnlyFans, all of this, you can say you don't like it. People are buying this stuff. There's 82 million men on OnlyFans.
Whoa.
Okay, 1 million women, 82 million men. There's only 170 million men in the United States.
That's unbelievable.
And by the way, I'm not on OnlyFans.
As a performer or as a client? Which one were you denying there? Okay. No, it's funny because I'm immediately reminded of like new technologies being adopted by kind of the fringes that could use it the most that are currently outside the existing system. Pagers being used by drug dealers and doctors and stars.
Yep.
And even with Bitcoin too, we had the Silk Road, right? So regardless of how you might feel about these illicit activities, it's usually those that are forced to the periphery that have the most to gain from starting to experiment and starting to use them. So that makes perfect sense to me why those industries would eye Bitcoin and go, this is better. This is way better. Why don't I just use this? It offers, especially if you're using Lightning or something, it's going to offer some anonymity, final settlement, and I'm not going to pay an arm and a leg necessarily in fees.
Now, the anonymity, I just need to interrupt you there, okay? It's not going to give you any anonymity. There's no anonymity in crypto. That was a great myth, man. I don't even know where that came from. But if you want to do something illegal, do it in dollars.
Yeah.
If you want to do something that your wife doesn't find out about, or your boyfriend or your mom, do it in dollars. And I don't care how many Moneros you have, okay? Like I own another company I bought a company called Node 40 that tracks, audits, and it does deep audits on really large players. And we can settle now 1 billion transactions down to 98 cents. That means I can take a portfolio of someone that traded for a year, 1 billion transactions, $589 million, and settle across every jurisdiction, every transaction, every token down to 98 cents. That is extreme clarity, man.
Agreed. And if I can just clarify, because you're right, in particular with Bitcoin, it's pseudonymous, not anonymous, and everything's on chain. If you really want to do something legal, you're absolutely right. The US dollar cash is the best way to go. More or less just comparing, like, if you're using things like CoinJoin or we're using things like Lightning and Liquid for forward-facing privacy, as compared to Visa, there's at least a little bit of an improvement there. But you're absolutely right. The worst stuff is always done in cash. I'm pretty sure that's what the CIA likes to drop off from time to time. If I can, I did want to actually reference something. Actually, I'll jump back on a different point. Earlier, you were talking about getting into different industries. This idea that you could go to different industries, don't have this myth that you're stuck in one spot. And I want to tease that out a little bit because you've been unbelievably successful in multiple industries, in different entrepreneurial ventures, and investing as well too. And I know that at least from I hear you in spaces and stuff all the time as well. Definitely big push for Bitcoin as an investment. But I'm curious for people that are maybe their peak kind of career years or earlier in their journey that aren't at the point of having large sums of capital that they can invest. What would you recommend to somebody who's getting out there, maybe looking to start a business or go down a career path? Where are you seeing the opportunities for people who haven't made their wealth yet?
Well, I think it really depends on where you're at and your demeanor. First off, I mean, people are going to immediately think, oh, wow, Gary just, had a lot of money and he went and did all this stuff. Well, that's just not true. I didn't have any money. And I worked for $27,000 a year and was probably overpaid. I didn't know shit, man. Okay, I didn't know skadoodly. Why would anyone pay me more than 27 grand? When I was making $70,000, I was 26 in Houston. I was like, fuck, dude, like I can't even believe this, right? Look, I think that first off, whatever
123,000
or business you're running or who you're working for today, or if you're not working, I don't think anyone's at a disadvantage here. In fact, if you're not working, you may be at a greater advantage than others because the rug's already been pulled out from under you, so you got to make some decisions. I think
we are live. It is August 13th, 4:50 p.m. Bitcoin just hit 123,000. We are edging at an all-time high, looking for 123,113. So we are $113 away, $110 away. Whoo! It is edging for it.
If you're working at any company, I have to look at myself and go, hey, what does this company actually do? If it cannot answer it in one sentence, man, what value do they bring to humanity? I need to start maybe looking for a different platform. I then need to also ask myself, what value am I bringing to the table? And if I can't answer that in one or two sentences, I need to get my shit together fast because I did a painting last night and I went on Grok and I said, hey, Grok, here's the painting. You give it a name and pretend like you're a highbrowed art dealer and I want you to give me the promotion for it. Bro, I would have bought this fucking thing out. I was like, my God, dude, I will never need an art. This thing, so you see my point? Like I am now, I've never done art. I'm trying to learn how to do art. I actually believe we have been lied to. That we can learn anything. And to sit here and see the most disruptive change on the planet, the first thing I would do is I would look at my portfolio. Okay, and if I have debt, I get rid of it. If I have debt under 8%, I look at it and go, wait, not that debt. All the debt over 8%. Then I look, do I own a house? Do I need this house? Is this house actually a problem? What am I making on this house? What's my 401k in? What is my cash in? Like, look at my current position and change it immediately. Move everything I possibly can to Bitcoin. And when I say everything, I mean everything.
You famously sold your house, didn't you, about a year ago?
Well, I own this house that I'm in. I charged 85% of this home against the operating expense of my life because I am whatever I do. That was never available to me before, bro. Not before COVID, okay? And I will go to court and argue that 85% of the entire value of this house, which I will still lose against Bitcoin, but 85% of what it cost me to live in this home, I am going to net out of my expenses. It's expense, right? Now that's very different. And my excuse is, you guys forced me out of my office. You forced my children out of the schools. You basically have convinced me that you're not really reliable, that you can make me stay off the roads. Well, I have a life to live, and I have a family to protect and people to protect. So I'm going to I went and came and bought this compound. This compound cost me, by the way, 1,000 Bitcoin.
Whoa.
Okay, so this house is not worth $120 million. See, it was worth $8 million when I bought it. But had I invested that $8 million or $8.6 million, it's probably worth 14 or 15, $16 million today, 4 years later. But it's a loser, man. It's a loser. The only reason I'm holding on to it is because of this new tax thing. I'm like, well, y'all forced me out of here, so I'm gonna. But now that's a trap because I'm like, wow, if you sell the house, you'd be like, bro, you live here for $15 grand a month. I mean, stupid. That's stupid. That's $1,000. You know,
don't get distracted by Bitcoin all-time highs.
Like, this is your
charm.
But it's still a trap.
I gotta find the fountain room again.
Right, and it's not going to go down. That is only going to get worse. And by the way, the expenses of this home. Add hurricanes twice in a year, and insurance, and oh shit, I lost that oak tree. I got to replace that, 30 grand. The expenses continue to go up. The taxes will continue to go up. So most people that find themselves in this position, they have a wife, and the wife's like, no, we're not selling the house. Well, I thought it was a good investment, baby. Well, it is a good investment. Well, you know what? Sometimes you have to sell the investment. You can't sit there and go, this is a great investment. Yeah, but we'll never sell it. Are you fucking crazy? So I would look at everything, dude. If it's not generating revenue, I ain't doing it. Okay. I've got 4 invites to go to New York and Chicago in the next month. And they're like, most people would be like, wow, I get to hang around those guys. I'm like, I'm not really going to get a lot out of going to that meeting, dude, other than shaking some people's hand and having a drink with people I already know. If I do less and make more, is that a good thing? If I do less and am able to do more and read more and learn more and create more, now that's the kind of life I want to live. And that's what they don't teach you in school. And that's that's the lie, right? Hey, let's go. It doesn't matter if you do Bitcoin or not. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter. What matters is do you know your own value and what the hell are you doing with your life? And if it's all about money, the safest play on the planet is, even if you're a business builder. Like I've got a friend right now, he just came into Bitcoin. He is a private equity. He loves building his own businesses, and he will not invest in like criminal organizations, no matter how much money they make. Like we were talking about United Healthcare. Buy United Healthcare for $250 million less than you could 2 weeks ago. And I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, man. I think they're a bad company, right? I'm not going to buy Raytheon or General Dynamics because they're a war company. This guy just stuck his beak into Bitcoin. In 1 year, he will stop doing private equity. In 1 year, he will stop building businesses, because when you realize that the human error element of building a business, dude, it's all I've ever done since I was 22. It's exhausting. You get sued. You get blamed for doing shit by people that are creatures, mediocre. The mediocre, it's the ants. And you know, once the company gets to 300 people, it's no fun anymore. Once HR walks through the front door, I'm out. I'm immediately like, okay, let's just get out. It's going to go to shit. I think the reason is human beings have a problem managing more than 100 to 150 people.
Agreed. It's Dunbar's number, right? It's like 127 or something?
I just don't like after. It's odd, right? The least important meetings, the least important topics include the most number of people, and the most important decisions in a company comes down to 1 or 2 people. So why do you have all these group meetings? I hate the group meetings. So look, if you're down and out right now, you don't know what to do, I would be very excited, because like this is the best time to be lost, because everyone's lost. But you have to now do some real research. I would look at the white paper. I would watch the white paper on YouTube. I would read The Cost of Tomorrow and 2 other books. And you spend 25 hours on this, I will give anyone a Bitcoin. If you spend 25 hours on reading the material I give to you, and you decide not to invest in Bitcoin with your own money, I've never seen anybody do it. And all the naysayers, if you just interview them, including Peter the Dick Schiff, you have not spent 25 hours. You might have listened on Spaces, but that ain't 25 hours. And there are an amazing amount of people that are investing in Bitcoin that have not even done the 25 hours.
Completely agree with that. I think that's one of the reasons that we see a lot of volatility at times is because you have more people that have Bitcoin than understand Bitcoin, and that information asymmetry is massive. One, I think Peter Schiff is playing the heel. I will stand by that theory. I think he's full of shit and he's got Bitcoin. But two, you're right. Because I mean, like if I walk into a room of 1,000 people and I ask them, has anybody heard of Bitcoin? Everybody puts their hand up. If I ask them, has anybody bought Bitcoin? I might even get like 10% of the room. But if I ask them to explain the difficulty adjustment or how the 21 million supply cap is actually enforced, not a clue. I would be shocked if it wasn't like a Bitcoin event that somebody could actually explain that to me. So it seems to me like your biggest message there is kind of like realize the opportunity cost that Bitcoin presents, that anything else that you're doing, you got to compare it to that kind of standard, because that's kind of the measuring stick for real estate and projects. And then also being really aligned with how the organizations you're a part of are adding value, and then how you're adding value to those organizations. It's got to be linked up or you're just not going to be able to get momentum.
Yeah, well, the first question is what's your industry doing or what you're doing are really key, because it should show you how at risk you are. And that's really why, like, this is the most interesting project I've ever been involved in, because I'm actually adding real value for the first time in my life. Me trading billions of dollars in power and natural gas and slashing Goldman Sachs one week and them slashing me one week. I mean, it was fun, but you look back and you go, wow, what did I do? Did I add any value? And I mean, I can see where there's real value being created. This is a real life, a life raft, right? I mean, it's provided tremendous security to me that would take another hour or two to talk about. But I find this to be an extremely stabilizing. There's something very unique about Bitcoin, especially when I think if you get to a certain volume, and this is what I would implore everyone to do is, every goal I've ever made, like I want to own 1,000 Bitcoin. I want to buy and own and control 1,000 Bitcoin. That is my goal. Am I there yet? No. I'm not going to tell you how close I am there, but let's say that your goal is to have 5 Bitcoin. Well, get going, man. Okay, that means, I have 1.1 today. Then one day I'm going to have 1. But in order to get to 5, I got to get through 1 first. So there's just too many people, Nathan, that are smart people who seem to have a unique life, and they're moving into Bitcoin. If you actually examine the personalities, they are all very similar personalities. Now it's getting ready to change. You're getting ready to have a new wave of players like my brother, who are ultra conservative.
Yep.
See, I'm not an ultra conservative guy. I've lost like stupid amounts of money. This is just what I do, though, right? I mean, it's just in my nature to be all in, because the truth is, that is all there is, really. 2, it is where all the great wealth is made. People don't make money being diversified.
Yeah,
they don't. And this is what the comment I was making about my friend in a year. He just has this thing from his parents that says, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, really? Well, you just go ask your wife how that's going to work. You do not treat your wife and your family like, I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket. It's like, I'm going to have a redhead and a blonde in Vegas. I don't fucking think you are. Not for long.
That's going to go over well.
Exactly, right? So that's diversified, though. It's clearly a diversified strategy.
I got to jump in on that, because that was the thing that was burning a hole in the back of my mind as you were going there, was that you also talked about stability of Bitcoin. And the immediate parallel that I drew is that, for one, I agree, Bitcoin has been very stabilizing for me in my life and has improved the trajectory. And I actually relate it back to my wife, in the sense that getting married was very stabilizing for my career, my trajectory, and everything as well, too. When I had my relationship and my family sorted out, when I found a good woman and locked it down, I didn't have to worry about that anymore, right? And when I found Bitcoin, I was like, okay, all I need to do is add value and save in Bitcoin. And I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to try and become a day trader or investor or focus on anything else just to retain the energy and time that I've already stored away. I can simplify everything to like family relationship, check, done, good. Savings, done, check, good. I can just focus on career, self-improvement, hobbies. It allows me to have a stable foundation that I can build better things on than I ever would have thought possible years ago.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is why I'm excited about AI.
Yeah?
Because, I mean, it's funny how the people that get all excited and scared, and then compare them to the people that don't. And there's very few people that are like, I think AI is going to be awesome.
I'm with you.
Look, and maybe it's because I'm getting older and I actually don't want to do everything. But dude, I don't want to do it. I've never wanted to do everything. Quite frankly, I've always had this part right. Maybe I'm just lazy, but I think I have a better chance of being really great at one thing, and over 40 or 50 years wake up and go, shit, I'm actually good at 4 or 5 or 6 different things, but I just want to be fucking great at one thing. Like really great at one thing. And I've been able to, I think it's worked because I've just the little time I've been in this space. I mean, navigating the Bitcoin community is not the easiest thing on the planet.
No.
And then trying to navigate TradFi and Bitcoin. Dude, two freaking, psychotic groups of people with their own misunderstandings and understandings and hate of each other. Mm-hmm. When in reality, hey, look, it's actually, anyway, it's the compliment I've been given the most often. It's like, bro, you've navigated that community really well between the alt guys and the Bitcoiners. And I'm actually really proud because I think I'm starting to get to the alt guys. And they're starting to go, hey, man, wait, this guy's just too sensible. I'm taking too much risk. And this is what, it's the risk adjusted piece. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin for me. It's this anchor, but it's an anchor that doesn't tie you to a fixed position. And it's a buoy, it's an anchor, but it also does this. If I get a bunch of high water, dude, I'm not held down, but I'm not being thrown about all over the place, right?
Yep.
And that is fascinating. That is really fascinating. So like I'm, if you're, I know this is going on for this question, but like, look at you, dude. You're making a living doing what you love to do. Okay.
Yeah, I'll even just throw in when you're talking about one, I didn't give a shit in university because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, I'll just become a doctor, I guess, but I had no passion for it. So again, I thought I didn't care about learning. Turns out I was fascinated by like Austrian economics, but discovered that later. And I actually pivoted from immunology research to Bitcoin. So that's currently only done one kind of industry hop, but I could not be happier for it.
Yeah. But look, I mean, I think that if you can learn how to study, you can learn anything. And it's highly likely that most people that went to school are not going to make the money in the schooling they went to. But the opportunity, like, look at what you're doing. You've created a career for yourself where you can be with your family. I mean, I could most certainly turn this into a money thing if I wanted to. Oh, by the way, I could hire 2 or 3 people if they're sensible enough and know how to communicate in one email instead of 37 and 14 texts, and be consistent. Like, I could hire people. Okay, like all people are going to do, like literally, people should be ringing my door off to be my apprentice, man. That's what I would do. See, if I was 55 or 25, I would literally pay someone to mentor me. I would pay a guy. A guy called me up from Saudi Arabia. He said, "Hey man, I want to hire you as a mentor." I said, "Go read Think and Grow Rich and call me back." And that's like, I'm going to just tell you what to go read, and we'll see if he reads it. He'll call me back and go, "Okay, I read it. What's next, sir?" Dude, those people I worked for in the early days at 70 grand, they could have literally not paid me anything. I would have kept my job. There was no firing my ass. I was going to stay no matter what. And to me, that's the mistake people make, is like, go find a platform. What is a platform? Smart people, dude, that allow you to be yourself and that you're able to bring value to the smart people. Just to be around a smart cat is worth it, okay? And most people around, you're walking around your company, and ask yourself who you have access to at the company that's fucking wicked smart. That's who you want to get around, man. So, wicked smart. Like, because this thing is changing, okay? It's changing so fast. People go, "Hey, Gary, why don't you build another company?" Well, dude, I can actually, why do I want to deal with all you people? Like, I can make all my own decisions. I can stick my nose in the X or social media today and meet almost anybody I want to meet. Now, I'm not a famous guy. In crypto, there are no closed doors. There may be some people that don't like me. They just don't want to meet with me. Speaking of that, that's my brother. Or whether we have political differences. But there has not been one person in 3 years. I called the CEO of NIDIG up. "Hey, Gary Cardone here. Could I meet with you next week? Come on in, man. What do you want to talk about?" That is very, very unusual. Okay, this does not happen in the payments industry or ExxonMobil. That does not happen. So if you're missing this space, you shouldn't. And if you are seeing this space and you're getting like lost in the glittery objects of altcoins and Misty and MicroStrategy and this trade and that trade, dude, stay focused on Bitcoin. And when you hear, guys like me buying some other things, it's because I am extremely already allocated to Bitcoin. My life, this has been like, in 4 years, I've accomplished more in 4 years than I have in the prior 16.
Wow.
Okay, with 1,000 less headaches.
Yep.
1,000, dude. And I don't know if you know what 1,000, but when you get older, you start going, "Hey, I don't want this headache over this shit, dude. Why is someone calling me about and giving me a URL and there's misspelled words in it? I don't want to do this. This is minimal work, right? I don't want to do, I want my value to be going to the highest value. This, people are going to get lost in this cycle right here. One, I believe that you and I will make and retain the most amount of money ever made in Bitcoin is getting ready to happen. In the next 4 to 8 years, oh, bro, I've already made more money than most of the whales that have come and gone that you don't even hear about. The trillions of dollars that have been lost in this industry from short-term thinking is frightening. And the hubris. Like, when you win a lottery ticket, don't start thinking you were smart. Just accept you won a lottery ticket. Because what happens to the lottery ticket winner is he begins to think he's smart. He then takes that money and invests it in operating companies, and every whale that's done that's lost money.
Yep. I'm pretty sure Brian Armstrong at Coinbase would have been better off just buying Bitcoin and sitting on it.
Oh, bro, I mean, like, Coinbase, quite frankly. Well, and look, those are different issues, right? I mean, Coinbase probably is going to decide, oh, well, I should have done the reserve too. But it was too risky back then. Chamath, every smart guy is underestimating this play, okay? Chamath owned 5% of the entire supply of Bitcoin at $300 and he sold it. Yeah. Now, you want me to, I'm going to get under Chamath's nose real quick. Chamath would be hanging out with Donald Trump right now, bro.
Yep.
Instead, it's David Sachs. It's David Sachs, right? I mean, think about that, bro. Chamath, an Indian, would be sitting with Donald Trump right now, and he knows it. Now, he doesn't talk about it, but he knows it. This is this is not like Standard Oil or an oil play, dude. We're talking about David Sachs. No one heard of this cat before. Okay, now he's in the space, all over the space. These people, by the way, have surrendered all their crypto holdings. Okay, it's the most positive crypto audience, 37-year-old guys. Like, this is going one way, man. Like, there isn't not one negative person sitting on Trump's executive team about Bitcoin. They're actually beginning to think, hey, this could be a solution for us in a pile of no solutions.
So, in terms of so currently we're sitting like 110 in terms of Bitcoin price. We've got the other major companies kind of in our crosshairs here. I'm kind of curious how you see this cycle with the current support from the administration playing out. I know you talked about this being like the big win in 4 to 8 years. Do we still have the cycles? Where do you see things going in the short and medium term?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think to say that Bitcoin is going to take out gold, I don't think it works that way. I think you're just going to look. This is a market cap play now. For the audience, in the history of mankind, there's never been a $2 trillion industry that failed ever. Once you get critical mass, dude, we're done now. This is why I continue to say, 100 grand, this is risk adjusted. This is the cheapest entry point in history. Based on what we know today, we know so much more than we knew 7 months ago. If I would have been talking about an SBR, which is now like in our acronymic mindset, the term wasn't even discussed a year ago. A year ago, you and I would have argued over the impact of the next ETF and the flows. We don't even care about it. 4,000 Bitcoin a week's being purchased. One guy buys all the mining output. So look, they're just going to keep eating through. It'll eat through Apple. Apple's probably going to come down in valuation. And this is what I was talking about, the glary object. United Healthcare, if you have a chart, United Healthcare just lost $300 billion worth of value in a week and a half.
Wow.
Tomorrow morning, we know that there's fraud charges coming from the DOJ. I mean, serious fraud charges. Friends of mine bought United Health on a 50% downturn at 250. I think it opens tomorrow at 250.
Oof.
Now, that will never happen with Bitcoin. So all these companies, that people are going to start looking at the risk associated. They've had 3 CEOs, dude, in a year and a half. Okay, they had a guy shot in front of a hotel. You stack all this data together and you're like, there's a little bit too much smoke here. I don't want to buy United Healthcare. I don't want all that risk. Maybe they've been ripping people off every day. Maybe this is $300 billion and people yawn. Okay, 300. So if United Healthcare can go down 300 billion, 6 months ago, we figured out for the first time in the history of Wall Street that Nvidia, a stock, could move 300 billion in one day. Now, what's weird about that? Where were all the genius analysts who were looking at Nvidia, and not one of them saw that coming? So I thought these guys were so bright, and that Wall Street and the price is always efficient. Yet in one day, Nvidia changed by $300 billion. You guys are out of your mind if you don't think Bitcoin can move $100,000 in an extremely short period of time. Out of your freaking minds, because you're literally seeing it with legacy violence. Okay, violent. Palantir was trading at $69 fucking dollars the other day. I literally considered selling Bitcoin to buy.
Wow,
it's at 130 right now, dude.
Yeah.
Geez. Okay, in a week. Okay, Bitcoin, like it's outperformed the shit out of Bitcoin. For me, that's saying something, because I can't own Palantir. For me, ethically, I don't want to be a war. I got better things to do with my karma in the next 37,000 lifetimes, dude. I do not want to make money selling weapons. But I think other people won't have that. And so you're going to see Bitcoin, where I'm trying to get to. The volatility that you've been sold, not you, but the world has been sold, it's a lie, dude. They're trying to scare you. The volatility of Bitcoin, 1, is not that bad. 2, unless you're a guy sitting on $1 trillion in cash in your house,
I thought I was going to get on cheap.
Most people need to earn money. So having the ability to earn when Bitcoin's going up, earn, save, watch it go through this cycle that y'all like to talk about, the 4-year cycle, and then you deploy all those nuts. Okay, doing that down frame. I mean, you can kind of see it. It's not impossible to see this. And then you go in and go out, go in and go out. My average cost base is $45,000 going up. Okay, and I bought all this shit in the last 3 years. All of it. I dumped it. I bought it. I dumped it because of a problem, and then I've acquired it all. This is not a bet. Like, I'm a late entry to this. Sailor just paid $103,000
3 relics at the same time,
and his average cost is $62.
Not transmit the same relic 3 times.
Average cost unit bias, the price of Bitcoin is wrong. You don't look at it. Look at the freaking market cap. I'm buying a $2 trillion market cap. Apple's at $3 trillion. Nvidia's at $3 trillion. Saudi Aramco's at $3+ trillion. Guess what, dude? There's $3 trillion, and then there's gold. There's $3 trillion, and then there's the mag stack of $13 trillion. The whole mag 7 stack is $13 to $18 trillion. Guess what? Size of gold. Okay, I think gold gets hurt here. I'm not. I know there's some really famous people out there that call it gold. I owned a lot of gold. I don't see gold exploding from here.
I think it already has.
Well,
it already has. Yeah.
People calling for $4,000 gold of it. Be great for Bitcoin. I actually think you could see gold start to. I think you're going to have gold sellers. Gold players are going to move into Bitcoin. It's. I've got a bunch of friends that it's obvious how hard that shit is to move.
Yeah. I think real estate players too. I think both of those are primed to move into Bitcoin.
Yeah, most certainly, man. Well, everybody's going to look for yield. See, this is I call Bitcoin the great magnet. People talk about going down the rabbit hole. I think that's really narcissistic. Almost like you have the forethought to go down this bizarre. If you're lucky, you're pulled into this thing. I have been pulled into it, and it was my interest. I do have curiosity, but I was also had a problem. I was starting to feel gravity, a lot of gravity. I'm like, oh man. And Bitcoin really has acted as an anti-gravity, anti-time machine for me. That puts me above. I mean, it's a weird way to look at it, but it actually elevates me above so I can look down and go, oh, I don't think I need to really overreact here, which is really, really pretty amazing. And I think it's only something you can experience until you've experienced it. And it requires you to have volume. And the example I use, El Salvador, you know, they had 6,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet and they had to do the deal with the IMF. They had to bend over. My first question was, how much should they have had to be able to tell the IMF to fuck off?
Yeah.
And I think it was 5 times more than they had, 30,000 instead of 6. That began giving me a thought, hey, there must be a ratio. That Gary Cardone, just take Gary Cardone family unit, this is how much I spend, this is my debt, this is how heavy Gary is, okay? How much Bitcoin relative to my debt, my weight, my costs, my living expenses, how much Bitcoin do I need to always keep me in a position to go, I don't need you. And I think there's a mathematical ratio there, okay? I think there is, but more importantly, if you get laden with enough Bitcoin, it will give you this anchoring without anchoring, if you know what I mean, without sticking you into a hole and you can't move. And to me, that's really powerful for someone that's, you know, back to your original question, hey, where's the opportunity, the career? This would be the kind of asset you would want to invest in, especially in a really consolidated way, in particular, if you're building companies or you're building yourself, right? With the caveat, you have to think about this in a 4 to 6 year cycle. Okay, which I think these cycles are broken now, but you have to let Bitcoin do its thing. And you need, I think, unless you're super, super lucky, you need, I think, 3 to 4 years. That's been my experience. Once I move through that, keeping in mind, there isn't a person on the planet that's held Bitcoin for 4 years that's ever lost money.
Yep.
And you can't say that about anything else, my friend. Not any other product in the world.
Completely agree.
And why would that change? See, that fundamental, for that to change now would be really weird.
I agree. Beautiful. Gary, with that, I feel like it's the perfect place to wrap it up. For anybody who wants to follow you, check out more of your stuff. I know you're in Twitter Spaces all the time, or x.com. Where can they go and check you out?
It's at Gary Cardone, YouTube, X, and LinkedIn. They'll find me. If you want to find me, you'll find me.
If you enjoyed this episode with Gary, please do like, share, and subscribe. And check out the previous episode with Katie from Citizen X on finding your backup escape country.
All right.
We are spending our lives in the pursuit of monopoly money. And I'm trying to protect the savings of my family. They're stealing that away. The money is broken. If the amount of fiat dollars you own doubles over 5 years, you are poorer. Once you understand the problem, the one outcome is you become a Bitcoin maximalist. All the non-Bitcoin wealth is going to get stolen. It only has to get stolen once and it's gone. If you're thinking you've got savings, you're going to rely on those in retirement, they're not going to be there. I mean, fiat is a Ponzi scheme, but pension systems within the fiat system are a total Ponzi scheme.
Do you think that at some point it does become too late, or it's never too late for Bitcoin?
If you don't own Bitcoin, you don't own anything. You fix the money, you fix the world.
Today, I'm excited to welcome Joe Bryan to the podcast. Joe is the creator of the viral video, What's the Problem?, and is currently working on building Bitcoin businesses. Welcome to the Bitcoin Age, Joe.
Well, thank you, Paula. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to meet you. Your video certainly has gone viral, and I'm looking forward to hearing about that. But tell us about your Bitcoin journey before the video.
Sure. Well, it started far later than I would have hoped, and I guess this is a common theme for everybody. It was early days in the pandemic in 2020 that I first bought Bitcoin for the first time. It was in May 2020, and since then just been going deeper and deeper as you start to learn more about it, and you understand that it actually is a hydra with many different heads rather than just the head that you see initially when you first engage with it. But the head you see initially is highly influenced by where you are coming from as the individual. And for me, I was coming from I spent 10 10 years in working for big banks as a derivatives trader. And so even after spending another 5 years after that building businesses, my default is always the financial markets and looking for asymmetric opportunity and risk reward, attractive risk reward. So that was the direction in which I approached Bitcoin. But then you quickly realize it's just far more than that. It's far more than that. So yeah, five and a bit years now of going down the various different warrens of the rabbit hole. Yeah, people say no one understands Bitcoin. It's because you just keep finding more aspects that you just don't know A about at all, or B enough about. And so yeah, constantly learning. And I think the angle that I think have been helpful to the Bitcoin community has just been trying from a very high level perspective to just help people connect the dots as to why we need Bitcoin. Because you don't have to understand the cryptography or how mining works or really any of that stuff to understand why it's critical to humanity that we have Bitcoin. Because once you understand that, then you're motivated to go and explore all the different things, all the different aspects, all the different heads of the Hydra over time, and that's a never-ending journey. But to think about the journey you'd have to go on up front, it would be incredibly daunting unless you had a reason to do it. And so, yeah, that's where we are today, and I get to have nice conversations with you. So it's been a great 6 months since releasing that video, and a great 5 years before, and hopefully at least another 5 years ahead of me.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing journey. But even with that background, trading derivatives and probably doing very well, you still found that you needed Bitcoin.
Yeah, because they were printing money like it was going out of fashion. In 2020, the world stopped, everyone's at home, and yet the market is flying. Asset prices are hitting new highs. That doesn't make any sense. How does that make any sense at all? There's no sense of a free market. You can't allow the prices to change. You can't allow the prices to go down. And how are they engineering that? It's because they're printing more money. So if they're printing money for free that I have to work for, and I'm trying to protect the savings of my family and protect the economic energy that I've expended, my time and effort in trying to secure a future for my family, they're stealing that away by printing more money. That's wrong. So it's like, how does this make any sense at all? And then from that perspective, you think, well, I need to own something they can't print. So you look at gold, and then Bitcoin, isn't it? And to start with, I bought some gold and I bought some Bitcoin, and then very, very quickly realized, why do I hold this lump of rock, lump of metal, and I don't even hold it. I've just got a piece of paper that somebody somewhere has it in my name. It doesn't make any sense. Why is that valuable at all? I don't own it. And so I sold all the gold and bought Bitcoin. But yeah, it's just ludicrous. It's ludicrous. It does not make rational sense. We are using monopoly money, and we are spending our lives in the pursuit of monopoly money. But people don't realize.
Don't realize. Yeah, that's the incredible thing. And I wanted to speak today to those people that haven't figured out what the problem is, and haven't found your video. I sent your video to friends and family, and I didn't think anyone watched, but my mom said she watched, and then she said, but I'm too old.
That's not true. That's not true.
It's not true. We'll get to how we can orange pill the older.
I've had a 92-year-old, Paula.
Wow.
I've had hundreds and hundreds of emails from people around the world over the last few months who have watched the video or had family members watch the video. And one of them was a guy who said, my dad, who's 92, watched the video and wants to buy a Bitcoin.
Wow. That's amazing.
Your mum is certainly not too old, so you give it another go.
Gonna tell her that. But what do you say to the smart, somewhat successful people that just don't think they need it? They're working really hard, and you know, they think they're doing okay in the system.
Some people are doing very well in the system, but just most people aren't. And even if you think you're doing well in the system, you're probably not. Because even if it looks like you're getting wealthier on paper, you're actually getting poorer. So the greatest trick of the fiat system is for people to make people think that they're becoming more prosperous when they're not. And it's achieved because you're measuring your success in the system in something which is ever expanding. And so if there's just more of it washing around, there are more, let's call currencies fiat-tellers, like the video. There's Bitcoin, there's fiat-tellers. So fiat-teller just prints whatever, as many fiat-tellers as he wants, right? And just gives them out to people for goods and services. If everybody is looking at measuring their wealth in fiat-tellers, then they can just go up forever. But your share of the pie is going down, because the rate at which the fiat-tellers are being printed exceeds the rate at which you're accruing or you're accumulating fiat-tellers. If the amount of fiat-tellers you own doubles over 5 years, but they print 400% more money, you are poorer. You're not twice as wealthy, you are poorer. But this is the trick. This is the trick. And so one of the challenges is getting people to stop looking at the number and think about their life. Because I think there's very few people who would say, you know, my life is materially better now than it was 5 years ago. Unless they've had a big pay rise, like a significant pay rise that's outstripped inflation or something like that. Most people would agree it's at best the same, but probably worse, even though they probably get paid more than they did. And certainly when you compare it to 20, 30 years ago. Here's one of my favorite examples, Paula, is that you must be aware of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we all know The Simpsons. So what is The Simpsons? It's a underproductive member of society. Has a family with 3 kids, 2 pets, stay-at-home mum who doesn't work, and he lives in a big detached house with a car. You couldn't do that now. And that was normal. That wasn't... You just think about the framing of The Simpsons. That wasn't like, this guy's doing really well. This was just, he's an average guy. Well, he's a below average guy in many respects, but his lifestyle was just like that of an average person. If you made this today, it would not be framed in that way whatsoever. And that is, in a nutshell, is the deterioration of society caused by the money printer over time. Because people intrinsically know this. Everybody listening will know this. If you won the lottery today and you were given $1 million and someone said, okay, you just need to look after that for the next 10 years and try and have the same purchasing power in 10 years' time, you would not leave it in the bank. Because you know if you leave it in the bank, it's worth less and less and less every year, and in 10 years' time, it's probably worth close to 50% less than it's worth today. But that's bonkers. That's bonkers. Like, the money is broken. So you get paid today. Well, in this case, you won the lottery, so look at you. But you know, if you got paid today and you want to store the energy that you've expended in earning that money, you can't without risking it again. And so you have to speculate. You have to buy the stock market or buy safe bonds or something like this over time, just to stand still. Or you buy a second house. You invest in property and get some tenants. You only do that because you can't keep the money in the bank. You can't retain the purchasing power over time because the money's broken, and everybody realizes this. They just haven't articulated the real reason why they invest in the stock market or invest in a second property. It's because they can't keep the money. They can't keep the purchasing power because of the destructive power of the big red button and just the constant money printing. So this is nothing new. It's just the challenge is just articulating to yourself why you are making the decisions you are making, because that makes it much more real. There's nothing new here. Everyone knows this. You just need to connect the dots that you've already loosely connected in your own head. You're already actioning this. You just haven't vocalized the reason why you're actioning this. And then once you realize fully why you're actioning this, you make the best possible decision. And the best possible decision is not buying the stock market. It's not buying an overinflated stock market where everyone's putting their money in it. It's separated from all underlying economic fundamentals. Or it's not buying a second home, or a third home, or a fourth home, because they're less than efficient ways of storing your economic contributions that you've accumulated, and you don't own them. You don't own them. It's like you don't buy the gold. You don't own the gold. You own a promise in it on an email that someone somewhere has some gold for you, if you're allowed to accept it. If they say it's okay and the government says it's okay. And so you go down the chain of thinking, you ultimately just end up with Bitcoin. I've got to own the thing that nobody can print and that nobody can take off me. It's the only thing I can actually own. I'm not going to own the stock market. I don't want to own the bonds. I don't want to own the second house. I don't want to own the gold. I'll just own Bitcoin, thanks very much. But everyone already knows this. There's nothing new. There's nothing new here. It's just the articulation of it.
And that's what you're so good at. Hey there. Don't forget to like and subscribe to help me grow the channel. Want to sleep easy? Microseed lets you stamp your seed phrase onto a small steel washer. Buy the device once and use it forever. I love it. It's discreet, precise, and easy to transport. Get yours below. For powerful self-custody with no backdoors, I recommend the Trezor wallet. For peace of mind with collaborative custody, the Bitcoin Advisor is a trusted team who can also help with inheritance planning. Just scan the QR code or use the link below. And check out these super cool Satoshis with over 40 styles to choose from. Plus 10% off with my link below. Now, back to the show. You said that people really get it, but they just can't articulate it. And then they watch your video and it all comes together. So what you're saying is people in their lives feel like something is wrong, but they don't actually know the severity of the big red button or that inflation's higher than we're told.
Often they don't realize it is inflation which is causing their decision making. Because I think we all react to the stimuli around us, and not just from a financial perspective. It's cold, you put a jacket on. When you experience things, you react to them, and your decision making changes. But when you see a set of consequences or stimuli that impact your decision making, when they're all quite disparate, tracing them back to what caused them, and therefore what is causing you to change your behavior, is very hard. So if you see the house prices going up, you see everybody getting really overweight, if you see the endless wars, the crackdown on free speech, all of these things, if you change your behavior because of them, right? You don't save for a house anymore if you're in your 20s, because you're never going to be able to afford one. So you go and live your best life, don't have kids, all of these. You react to the world around you, but knowing that came from the money printer is extremely difficult. Whereas I think what's helpful about the video is, well, firstly, it's a story, and people remember stories in a way that they don't remember a lecture or an informational video. But also, the story starts from a singular point, which is easy to understand, and then it's just a natural cascade and a fanning out of this, then that, then this, then that, and it's just a series of consequences. And then when you see all the consequences, you know where they came from, and it was entirely logical because you were running the system one way. Whereas trying to start with the consequences and run the system the other way is incredibly hard. You'd probably think it was something else, right, causing all of these things, or not even know that it was a single thing behind all of these downstream consequences. So I think that's what the video just has helped people with, because they realize they're making these decisions, they don't realize why they're making these decisions. But then once you see it, you can't unsee it again. And you don't forget it because it's a story. We remember stories from when we were children. You don't forget them because you don't forget it because you haven't heard it in 30, 40 years. You still remember it. You might be a bit loose on the details, but you remember the structure. You remember the conclusion and the thrust of it. This is why, you know, Fiatello versus Satoshi on the island is, I think, so helpful for people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great story. And you're right. But just because people then realize that Bitcoin is the solution doesn't mean that everybody goes all in. You know, you sold all your gold. I started selling gold, and then later I sold real estate, but it took a while.
It does. Because conviction builds gradually. Well, it's not an on-off switch, is it? It's, you know, one day I've never heard of this Bitcoin thing, and the next day it's like, you know, I'm a Bitcoin maximalist. That doesn't happen because it's a complex topic. There's lots of things about it that many of us are unfamiliar with to start with. I think everyone is unfamiliar with large portions of it to start with because nobody is no one's a polymath and, you know, expert in all of these things. And also, it's a complete rewiring of the brain that is required. And that doesn't happen overnight. But once somebody has shown you the map, once you've seen it, then you start to... Because I consider the story is like a skeletal mental framework for Bitcoin and why Bitcoin is important. It doesn't talk about Bitcoin in the story for 30 minutes. The word Bitcoin is not even mentioned right until half an hour, until the end. But you understand the structure, and then once you've got that mental skeletal framework, you then start to put meat on the bones of that structure. Like, I read this book and then I fill in the arm and the leg of the structure, and then the head, and then the shoulder. But that takes time it takes time and a bit of effort. And then you begin to see how all of these things are interrelated. You become more convinced with your own critical thinking. And there's no shortcut there. That just happens over time. But you have the motivation. You have the motivation to do it because you've connected your actions to the logic which drove your actions. Yeah, and some people it connects quicker than others. Because some people have been severely programmed the other way. And so it really depends on what your starting point is. If you were in a neutral position, there is a major amount of brain rewiring required. If you're starting from Keynesian economics is absolutely how the world works, then, you know, it's a 180-degree about turn that you need to make mentally. And so it's probably twice as long to get to the point where you actually see the world in the way that the world is, the way that human action leads to natural consequences. So I think it does depend also on your starting point.
Did you feel inspired when you created it, and did you know it was going to be this big?
That's a really good question. I had absolutely no clue it was going to be as big as it was or is. Continues to be. It's great. I knew there was something there. As I was creating it for a presentation for some friends, I was like, this is actually a really good way of explaining it. And there's one slide in the video which is, you know, the flow chart. Like, he presses the big red button, he debases the currency, and then this, then this, then this, then this, then this, then this. I must have got through 100 sheets of paper, Paula, trying to distill, you know, cause and effect Bitcoin, social consequences, onto a single page in a way that flowed and nothing overlapped with one another. There were points I very much regretted trying to do it, but we got there in the end. But I think once the thing was finished and I gave the presentation for the first time to a group of people, I just knew it was like a lights. It was like a key. It was just like the key had been turned, and then you see like the penny dropping with everybody. And I was just like, yeah, there's something here. And then basically you just share this with more people. And so I just went away and made a video. I've never made a video before. I'm not sure I'll ever make a video again, but there's 0 subscribers on YouTube, brand new YouTube channel, a few hundred bots on X. I had to stop being an anon in the background. So yeah, it was mad, really, how quickly it caught hold in the Bitcoin community. But I think we've needed something to be the very first thing we can send to anybody that is, has no sharp edges, accessible for everybody, understandable by everybody, that is politically neutral. Give someone in 30 minutes the whole rationale as to why we need Bitcoin without it being a Bitcoin video. And then once you get to the end of the video, it's like, okay, well, now I need, now I'll send my friend the big print, or, the Bitcoin Standard, or Broken Money, or The Price of Tomorrow, or one of these books. It's hard to read one of those or have the motivation to read one of those unless you really understand why you need to. And so, like, it's just the very first thing every Bitcoiner should send to everybody before they send the first Bitcoin book or the video podcast or whatever. And so, yeah, it's like a super small niche, but I think, yeah, it's been very helpful for people, and I'm just delighted. I couldn't have asked it to go better. I just get to speak to Bitcoiners all the time now from everywhere in the world, and this is, it is mad, absolutely mad, that this is in 40 odd languages now, and we have it's probably 45 languages on YouTube, all natively translated by Bitcoiners in different countries. This is not AI translation. This is Bitcoiners around the world getting in touch saying, can I translate this? And then we made the slides and the speaker notes and the transcripts open to everybody. So you can go to the Stats versus Fiat, or actually go to what'stheproblem.org now. And people can get them, take them, and then present them to their friends and families, or in schools or universities. It's happening all around the world in 30 different languages. And then we've got 10 new videos. So the entire video redone with someone speaking Korean, and all the slides in Korean in the video. So to have imagined that all of that was going to happen when I just, was trying to do this flowchart on a piece of paper is just such a massive leap. But I'm very grateful for everybody for helping and for engaging, for sharing. I think it's just going to be one of those things that now lives forever in the Bitcoin history, and hopefully will help many more people in the future.
Yeah, it certainly will. And I think you're right. I've sent books to many people and they don't read the books, so this is a great first step. And it sounds like it's become a movement. How has your life changed?
Well, massively for the better. I mean, I'd quit Fiat a year ago, and in a fortunate position to take a step out and focus on the thing that really matters. And that is Bitcoin. So I spend all my time on Bitcoin. It's the most important thing in the world that I could be focused on outside family. And that's also true for a lot of people. Once the penny drops, everything else is a symptom. You've got to fix the cause. You've got to fix the root cause. And you fix the money, you fix the world. And so I'd go as far as say the majority of Bitcoiners, if you gave them the option to leave Fiat and focus all their time on Bitcoin, they would take it. The vast majority would take it, because it's how you fix the world. And we all know this. And the challenge is how we help everyone else know this too. And so, yeah, I guess it has become a bit of a movement, but it's open for everybody. I encourage everyone to take it and change it and share it with as many people as possible. Because once you understand the problem, you never stop understanding the problem, and therefore only ends up in one outcome. The one outcome is you become a Bitcoin maximalist, and then when everyone becomes a Bitcoin maximalist, we end Fiat. So I don't have any doubt that outcome is already baked in. So the question is how long it's going to take. And so the more motivated we are, the more education we do, the more podcasts, the more we encourage other people, the more businesses we build, the faster we destroy Fiat. And the faster we fix the world. Yeah, it's probably going to sound quite strange if you've got people who are not Bitcoiners watching this conversation, but all the Bitcoiners at home will be like, yeah, nodding along to that, I'm sure, because it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. So yeah, I encourage everyone to watch the videos and stuff.
Yeah, and it is, because in the video, you talk about all the areas that Bitcoin does touch, like our food, like our medicine, and many areas. When did you realize that Bitcoin touched so many areas? Was it when you were making the video, or was it in your own life you saw it?
No, a lot of reading. A lot of reading. I mean, we're producing Bitcoin books now at such a rate, I cannot possibly read them all. I have a stack of books which is ever growing on my bookcase. I'm sure you do. I have the intention to read them all, but they're written faster than I can consume them. But the Bitcoin Standard was just amazing from safety and to give that framework. And then a lot of it's just critical thinking as well. Listening to Jeff Booth, Saif Dean, many others. You just create that patchwork of stuff, and then you just use your own observation. You watch TV, you look at the people around you, you learn about history. So I listened to one podcast. I should say, I listened to one non-Bitcoin podcast, and that it's many years old now, but it's called The History of Rome, by a guy called Mike Duncan. And I would encourage anybody to listen to that. It's incredible. It charts the entire history of the Roman Empire from its founding, 700 BC or 600 BC or something like that, all the way through to what he considers to be sort of the collapse, which is way before Constantinople ultimately fell in the 15th century or 16th century. But it's every emperor, every battle, every territorial gain, every territorial loss for well over 1,000 years. And you just see history repeat itself over and over and over and over again. They destroyed the currency over and over and over again, and they stole the wealth over and over and over again. What we are living through is not the first time. It's just going to be the last time. And we have finally an option that we've never had before. But there's never been a time in history where you could have credibly separated money and state, because everything up to this point was physical. The apex was gold, and if the soldiers arrive with their guns or their spears, you can't really hide the gold. The gold is there, and you just don't know if it's real gold either. Right? It's been painted. You just don't know. You can't move it. You can't send it over the internet. You can't do any of these things. And
now we don't know if it is there.
Well, like I said, it's most certainly not all there. But there was no way to escape the system, because everything you owned was within the system. And if everything you own is within the system and it's permissioned, then you don't own anything. You feel like you own it because someone said you haven't lost it. But if you can't unilaterally control that forever, then you don't own it. And if you don't own it, you're not wealthy. And so throughout history, people have accumulated wealth, have tried to look after their families, and it's just been stolen from them over and over again. And this is every country in the world. It's not just the Romans. It's just the Romans, you just saw it over and over and over again. But now we have an option. We have a choice. And so it will be the last time. The last time it happens. And all the wealth is going to get stolen. All the non-Bitcoin wealth is going to get stolen. Mostly through not putting a gun in your face. It'll be mostly stolen by printing more money while you're sleeping. But we're increasingly seeing it by people putting a gun in your face as well. Governments are in economic black holes, increasingly going socialist. So they're stealing through the taxation, and then I would say like noble theft through taxation, and then absolutely criminal theft through inflation. But man-made engineered inflation, not something else. It's very clear where inflation comes from. The only people who don't want you to understand where inflation comes from are the people who benefit from inflation.
Yeah. So the reason why you say this will be the last time is because you can't stop Bitcoin. Yeah. And even governments like the US and Trump are now buying Bitcoin, and other governments own Bitcoin, because even though they, like you mentioned, some of the people at the top really benefit from the system, they can't stop Bitcoin. So they obviously realize that they might as well join.
There's no neutral strategy. You can't ignore Bitcoin. If you ignore Bitcoin, you are losing. And so the only positive outcome strategy is to engage with Bitcoin, and then you just have to own as much Bitcoin as you can. But just think about what the logical outcome is for the people who are currently benefiting from inflation. They accumulate more assets and more fiat telos. The fiat telos, they need to be invested somewhere. And then so therefore they have the same thought processes as us. It's like, now that I've stolen these fiat telos, how do I stop them being stolen from me? I've got to buy Bitcoin. And so if you have access to a big red button that allows you to print as many fiat telos as you want, the logical outcome, the logical conclusion, is just to print it infinitely and buy Bitcoin. Because you print the thing you can print to buy the thing no one can print. To do anything else is suboptimal. And when you've got between 150 and 200 big red buttons all around the world, one in most countries if you're not dollarized, then the people who figure it out first get to buy more Bitcoin, which makes everyone else press the big red button faster. We just haven't reached that. We haven't reached that tipping point yet. But when they hit the big red button, they're going to steal everything from everybody, unless you own Bitcoin. They're going to print money. Inflation's going to go up. Asset prices are going to go up aggressively as they print more fiat telos. Everyone's going to think they're getting wealthier. Everyone who owns the assets is going to think they're getting wealthier. You're going to get greater levels of wealth distortion. You're going to have social upheaval, where it's tax the rich. The society gets bailed in. The government hold their hands up and say, we don't know where this is coming from. They bail in the population by stealing all the assets, mainly through socialism. And then once you have socialism, all you have is poverty and death. And so this is how it ends. You've got to own Bitcoin.
And that's through CBDCs and other ways that they can steal wealth or control wealth. But when do you think this is going to play out? How long do you think it takes?
I don't know. I think Larry Lepard would say it's borderline imminent. I would say probably a bit longer, but I think it'll happen very fast when it does happen, because it's just monopoly money. And the only way out is them just to print more money, which is not a way out. It just exacerbates the problem. The more you print, the more debt you issue, the more leverage your banking system, the more you can't let asset prices fall even a tiny amount without your banking system becoming insolvent. You've got to pump the assets forever by printing more money, which just steals the wealth from the population. And so it's a I think we've probably crossed the abyss, the point of no return, where it just becomes a self-fulfilling cycle now. Because you can't fix the problem from within. I mean, we try. If you just look at Elon Musk, he's tried to do it. You've got the most productive guy in the world trying to fix the US budget, and he can't do it. He can't do it because you can't do it. It's impossible. He should never have done it because it's obviously impossible. I think you're slowly seeing him become a proper Bitcoiner in real time. But if the smartest guy in the world, and the most productive guy in the world, who's got the massive amount of resources behind him, cannot fix the US budget, even temporarily. He can't even balance it. Not like he can't even balance it, he can't even make a dent in it. Right? It's actually worse now than it was a year ago. How can you expect the outcome to be any different anywhere else in the world? And so what's going to happen? It's just going to get worse. And so if you can't fix it, and the trajectory is just getting worse, then it's game over. It's just, you just need to play out over time. I encourage people, if you're thinking you've got savings, you're gonna rely on those in retirement. You own assets, you're gonna rely on those in retirement. They're not going to be there. I firmly believe they're just not going to be there. The assets, sorry, clarify that. The assets will be there, probably. They just won't be in your name anymore. You'll have been bailed in. You'll have been bailed in by the government because we're all in it together to temporarily cover a hole in the budget deficit. But it's only temporary because they continue to print more money, issue more debt, drive greater division in society through all downstream consequences of the money printer. So when you think longer term, you absolutely have to own Bitcoin. If you don't own Bitcoin, you don't own it. You don't own anything. And if people are sat at home and they don't own any Bitcoin at all, you need to get off zero. Even if it's just buy $1. Buy $1 worth of Bitcoin today and just start to learn about it. Because your future self will thank you. Because in my view, ultimately, everyone in the world is going to own Bitcoin. And you either buy it when you can or you buy it when you have to. And it's much better to buy it when you can.
Yeah.
Not financial advice, obviously.
No. When you share, Joe, about that's almost like a dystopian world. Almost when I even hear you saying you won't have direct access to your retirement accounts. And I do believe it's coming, but it feels like to me 10 or 15 years down the road, but maybe it's sooner.
Well, maybe it is. Maybe it's 20, 30. I'd be surprised. But there are a lot of people listening who won't get to retire in that period of time. And my default assumption is I will never be able to retire and get anything the government has promised me in the future. And you already see this playing out in slow motion because 10 years ago, if you were 10 years older, you'd have seen people retiring earlier with bigger pensions and guarantees. And then every couple of years, the retirement age is pushed back. And then the benefits you see in retirement are watered down. The index linking goes, the tax-free allowance goes. And so it becomes a honeypot. It's like you can put the money into the pension, right, tax-free. But then when you get it out, they have to tax it massively because the system is insolvent. And so even if they haven't robbed it, they'll tax it to the point where you don't get anything back anyway. They're all just different levers they can pull to steal the wealth from you. And it doesn't take much just to look at the demographic curves in the countries around the world to see that the population demographic changes are gone over a tipping point. And you play that forward another 10 or 15 years, the entire system is insolvent. It's only not insolvent today because of accounting and because they can run the deficits. You can only run the deficits until the coffers are empty. It is just, fiat is a Ponzi scheme, but pension systems within the fiat system are a total Ponzi scheme. You're paying in, and maybe it's obviously different in different countries, but in the UK, you put money in and it goes straight out the door to somebody else who's retired. There's no pot that's being saved for people. It's just taking money from the pocket of one person, giving it to somebody else. Now, that's literally the definition of a Ponzi scheme. You're raising fresh capital to pay out the people you promised returns to, right? But you can only do that as long as the numbers work. And we're very close to the point where the number of people who are expecting payments is materially higher than the people who are putting in. The people who are putting in don't own any assets and they're not getting paid enough. And so it's all going to break. It's all going to break and the wealth is going to get stolen. They won't call it stealing. It'll be wealth taxes. It'll be taxation. It'll be further watering down the pension system. It'll be pushing back the retirement age so that you actually never can retire. It'll be retirement at 80 on a 60% tax rate or something like that. Or you'll be forced to buy some government annuity on some horrible rate. It will not be so they can look themselves in the mirror, but it is just the system is broken, fundamentally.
And it is
broken.
And it's happening now, like you said. I notice friends pushing back their own retirement because they can't come off on what they have. And I didn't realize the UK, they were insolvent too. They mismanaged their retirement funds. And if you think about it, my mom in Africa, they long ago took away her pension and it went to zero. And that happened in many of the third world countries. So it is happening. It's just...
People think, it's not going to happen to us. It's two things. It's people think, that would never happen here. You see that happen in some socialist dictatorship in South America or Africa or, occasionally in Europe. That would never happen. Never happen here. But you see it. It's beginning to happen. All these social consequences are beginning to happen, and then the wealth just gets stolen completely. It only has to get stolen once and it's gone. So what's the chance of the next 50 years that your pension pot isn't robbed? At one point, very low. So yeah, just encourage people to think about protecting themselves and their families, and people they care about. Save your economic energy in something that someone else can't print. I've said this before, but the way I think about Bitcoin is the amount of Bitcoin I own gives me a share of all of humanity's future economic activity forever, which I can pass to my children, my children's children, their children. Forever, and no one can take that off me. There's nothing else in the world you can make that statement.
Yeah, and we're trying to get the message out to people so that they front-run governments and corporations. But do you think that at some point it does become too late, or it's never too late for Bitcoin?
Bitcoin's going to eat everything. It's going to consume the whole world, and so it's better to be early than late.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about your interview with Paul Check because he influenced my health and mindset since my 20s, and I knew about fiat food even back then.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but no, in a way. I knew that the food was broken. I didn't know why. Do you think more people are starting to connect the dots?
Yeah, absolutely. Paul's great. We spoke for about 3 hours. 3 hours. But it was great. And I think by the end of it, he was...
You orange pilled him.
I think so.
That was great.
Because it's so aligned. It's so aligned with the way that he sees the world. And I think there are a lot of Bitcoin adjacent communities that have seen some of the have seen one head of the downstream consequences. Be like, that's not right. That's not the way it should be. And they're identifying this problem, they're digging into the problem, and they're trying to solve it, help people navigate how you opt out of the default that has been created because it's been corrupted by the money. And food is one of those, and health and exercise. And so you have these pockets of Bitcoin adjacent communities, but they're filled with people who have critical thinking ability. They just haven't been able to, no one's given them a map to show them where it came from. It's like they're dealing with the symptoms, not the cause, which is still very important. Like, they can make changes in their lives, but they're just Bitcoiners who haven't realized what they're passionate about is really Bitcoin. Yeah, and so it was great to talk with Paul.
Okay, that was dope.
It was helpful for his audience as well. Yeah, this is why Bitcoin's inevitable. Everyone with critical thinking capability is going to get to Bitcoin, and the people who tend not to over-index in critical thinking capability will end up just adopting it because that's what everyone uses.
And so you believe, and you write on X, fix the money, fix the world.
Yeah, everything else is downstream of the money.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Joe. I see you as the connector with your video, and I'll put links below. And is there anywhere else people can find you?
Well, I'm Satmo Joe on X, and the website we've now. To come back to your question earlier, Paul, about whether you expected the success of the video, I didn't expect the success of the video. I just put up a website, sats-versus-fiat.com, and just connected it to my inbox. I think if somebody sent me an email, I'd just reply, and I released the video, and there's like a wave of emails came through, and then I have to deal with them. But if I'd have known at the start how popular this would have been, I'd have used a different URL. So about a month ago, I managed to acquire whatstheproblem.org, which is the right URL for this thing. And so if people go to whatstheproblem.org, they will find the video, the materials, a link to the old website, which has all of the other stuff on as well. And so I'd encourage people to go there and share it with as many people as possible.
And how many people do you think you've reached?
It's hard to know because I launched it on X and just put a YouTube link. I embedded the video on X so people could just watch the whole 40 minutes on thing and put the YouTube video below. And then it just got shared and shared and shared, and then Michael Saylor shared it with everyone. So it's in the millions on X. And on YouTube, it's across all the videos now, it's probably somewhere between 250 and 300,000 times just there. But YouTube is not the top of the funnel. So I consider YouTube as like how many times it's been shared with normal people. Because if you're a Bitcoin, you're probably on X already, in which case you probably watched it on X. So that's the way I think about it. But yeah, just very grateful for people sharing it.
It's one of our best orange pill, and we really appreciate you making it, Joe. And thank you so much for being on the show today.
I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on, Paul.
All these people come into my world and they want to get rich. They want to quit their job and become an investor. And I said, you don't understand how this works. Think of the most famous, well-known investors in the world, Warren Buffett. He just retired at 93 years old. Ray Dalio started the largest hedge fund in the world. They think, well, they're investors, I should do that. Warren Buffett owned a business called Berkshire Hathaway, and he went to that business every day. And that business's job was to buy other businesses and run those and turn those businesses around. Ray Dalio went to a business called Bridgewater Capital and worked in that business every day. And so they think that these are investors and they should go be this full-time investor, but that's not how it works. So I couldn't agree more. You need to be focusing on earning the income and then investing what's left over. And it's really, there's two different types of people in this world. We have creators and we have consumers. And creators create more than they consume, which then gives them savings to invest. Warren Buffett worked, he just retired at 93 years old. He's still chairman of the board, but he stepped down as the CEO at 93. Why? He's worth billions of dollars because that's what creators do. Creators create value.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of The Report. Today, I got a good friend of mine who is actually living in my hometown of San Clemente. He's a repeat guest, and he is a Bitcoin strategist doing big things in the capital markets in the Bitcoin space. He's actually launching this week, fun fact, launching $1 billion publicly traded company in the Bitcoin space. I got my man, Mark Moss. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, Rich, always a pleasure to be here with you. I'm excited.
Dude. Appreciate you coming on, man. I got to get up to San Clemente and go check out your studio. We got to wrap in there sometime, man.
Yeah.
That is a dope studio you got, dude.
I know, and you're coming through all the time.
Yeah, I know. Every other week I'm up there, man. So
man.
We got to definitely connect and make that happen. But, dude, so much to cover, so much to unpack in this episode. I cannot wait to dig in. But first things first, man. Elon Musk left Doge.
Yeah.
What the heck is that all about?
Yeah, we have the Trump administration that came in, and he has an agenda. The government always has an agenda. Trump wants to make America great again. I call it, he wants to make America investable again. And so you had sort of this new Trump administration that Elon Musk heading up Doge, which was supposed to find fraud and abuse. And the goal was to cut $1 trillion from spending. Howard Lutnick came in as the head of the Secretary of Commerce. His goal was to balance the budget. And after a couple months of that, they just figured that ain't ever going to happen. Elon Musk quit. And he, upon leaving, realized that the government cannot cut spending. And he said upon leaving that, I guess our only way is to grow our way out of this. And so at the same time, in sort of unison, the whole narrative of Lutnick's balance the budget got dropped, and the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, said we have to grow our way out of this. And so I think it's super important for us to understand, because we're all trying to navigate the future so we can make, purchase decisions, investment decisions for ourselves. And so we have to understand this political climate because the government has this agenda. So what does growing our way out of that mean? Well, we have debt to GDP. It's a ratio. So we have debt to GDP. So some people think we have to pay the debt off to get our debt to GDP down. We're over 100% debt to GDP. So what does that mean? Per Hirschman reports, no nation that's gone above 120% debt to GDP has ever survived, except for one, and that's Japan, who's still there.
We're above 100, but below 120.
We were at 120. We're a little bit below that right now. So that's like a dangerous level for us. We want to get it down to 70% debt to GDP or 80.
And what needs to be true in order for us to get down to 70?
So that's the thing, right? So there's two levers to pull. One, pay the debt down, or two, grow the GDP. So that's the growing our way out of it. So what do we have to do to grow our way out of it? Well, that's repealing all the red tape, getting rid of all the regulations, allowing business to start building again. Number one, we have $8 trillion have been committed to be invested into the United States to build this. But it also means letting inflation run really, really hot. So a lot of people don't want to hear this. So when inflation runs hot, meaning the cost of goods goes up, that increases GDP. So we can increase the GDP just by having prices go up without even creating any more economic goods. And so that's the growing our way out of this that people have to understand. So number one, it means the economy is going to be on fire. Number two, it means that there's going to be a lot of money sloshing around. Number three, it means the price of everything's going to go up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I think about the money supply, it's like, okay, let's not forget, and I talk about this all the time when I talk real estate investing, and I talk, having a longer term time horizon, right? I don't know what's going to happen in the short term. We're all speculating, right? But I can, when I look at a 10-year time horizon when we buy real estate, I'm like, man, guys, let's not forget the federal government has printed 80% of the money supply since 2020. And a lot of that money is on the sidelines because of the high rate environment. You can get, you can invest in government bonds. You can get 4.5% risk-free in a CD right now. So a lot of that money is on the sidelines. But to me, when I think about what you're saying right now, and we need to let inflation run, we need to, increase GDP. I think that the most common thing I think of is, well, we just need to reduce interest rates.
Right. And that's coming. And
why has it not come? I mean, we're looking at 40 months now. And if you would have told me this 40 months ago, that we would have doubled interest rates for 40 months, and a lot of the real estate, at least the major markets, would be relatively untouched. We're seeing some discounts out there in the marketplace, 10, 20%, but nothing crazy. I think that's a sign of how strong the fundamentals are behind real estate. But what needs to happen to lower this interest rate environment?
Well, there's two things that need to happen. So number one, we have the Fed headed by Jerome Powell. And so Jerome Powell says, look, we're supposed to be independent. Our goal is to keep employment full and inflation low. And if we lower rates, so what happens is this iPhone, whatever, it's like $1,400. It's expensive, maybe. If this price got dropped to $500 for the next month, they would sell more iPhones if it's cheaper. So we buy money. People don't really think about this. You probably think about it like this, but we buy money. What's the cost of buying money? It's the interest rate. So if the interest rate goes down, money gets cheaper, we buy more of it, right? And so what happens is if they lower the interest rate, money gets cheaper, people buy more of it, and that's going to put more money into the system, which then pushes inflation up. But the Fed is supposed to keep inflation down, and they want to keep employment full. So unemployment rate is very low, historically, really, really low. So that's doing really well. And he's holding inflation at bay. So Jerome Powell's like, we're doing our job. Now the Trump administration, that's the fiscal. So we have monetary, the Fed, and we have fiscal, which is the government. The government's like, hey, we want to juice this thing up. Trump's obviously a real estate person. He understands low rates. So he's been hammering Jerome Powell, calling him too late. You're always behind the curve. You're always too late. Lower rates, lower rates. But Jerome Powell's like, no, I don't want to do it. So what's going to cause that to change? I think that's the question that you asked. Well, there's two things. One, Trump has been trying to berate him, trying to bully him, if you will. Doesn't seem like Powell's going to cave to that. The jobs reports, remember, they're looking at unemployment and inflation. The jobs report just came out and got revised way down. Trump was so mad, he's firing the head of the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that publishes those numbers. And so, okay, maybe we change the unemployment outlook. That could cause Jerome Powell to cave. Or maybe Trump elects like a shadow Fed chair. It looks like probable. They were trying to drum up charges that Powell has completely mismanaged the renovation of the Fed building. Trump even went and did a tour of that like a week ago. And maybe we can get him out that way. Maybe we elect the shadow Fed chair. We can circumvent him. But he's gone. He's gone in 6 months anyway. And the president elects the next one. So what I'd say is a couple things. Number one,
and that term is up. Jerome Powell's term is up December of this year.
Yeah, and he'll be replaced early next year. And it looks like right now, if I had to put some money at this point, this guy Pulte, who's head of the FHA, is probably a likely candidate to come over.
Head of the FHA.
Yeah. So there's a couple things that are important for us as real estate investors to understand. Is number one, he's looking at housing. He understands that we need low rates to get the housing market going again. So he's a low rate guy. Number two, he said that he instructed the FHA to consider Bitcoin holdings as part of your credit worthiness to buy homes, which is really big. So that looks like probably the most probable choice at this point. And so that means lower rates are coming when. So either one, when he gets replaced. But also, like I said, Trump is trying to sort of circumvent that. But it also looks like I said, per these job reports numbers coming down, it looks like probably in the next meeting, we might see a little bit of relief. But Trump wants them down to like 1.5.
Yeah. Now, I know there hasn't been like major talks in the marketplace about, us being in a recession, but, things haven't been easy for a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, real estate investors over the last 36 months. Liquidity is an all-time low. If you think about how most Americans re-up on liquidity is by refinancing their primary home, which is for most Americans, the biggest asset they ever own. And it's the easiest path for an everyday American to become a millionaire. And if you think about it, even if you're a doctor attorney making $400K, $500K a year, you still have kids that are probably in private school, expensive car payments, an expensive mortgage, and you still need to re-up on liquidity. And no one's been able to refinance in the last 36, 40 months because of the high rate environment. For one, why are you going to refinance to a higher rate? But number two, values haven't gone up to where you can pull cash out, right? And so I think because of that, liquidity is an all-time low for Americans. And then you're seeing like telltale signs in the market. Like right now, I'm selling my old boat. Horrible time to sell a boat. Great time to buy a boat. A lot of people overpaid on all these yachts back in 2020, 2021, coming off of the pandemic. We saw high prices. People overpaid for boats then. And now with things kind of tightening, cash flow gets low for a lot of business owners. What's the first thing they're going to get rid of? The boat's a luxury, right? And so you're seeing a fire sale of all these expensive yachts right now. I was able to just buy a $3.5 million yacht in 2021 for 1.3. 4 years old. That's almost a 70% discount. And people are just taking fast right now on these expensive boats. And so, that's a telltale sign of what's really going on in the economy. And so when I think about, okay, like unemployment's at an all-time low, right? Also, minimum wages at an all-time high. I was at In-N-Out last night, and I was waiting for my order, and I'm talking to the people there. They start those guys at $22 an hour.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's more than 3 times I was making when I got my first job at 16 years old. And so payroll's gone way up. Right. And then in addition to that, we've been in a high rate environment. It's harder to borrow money. And so it puts a lot of pressure on a lot of business owners.
Yeah. So I'd say a couple things. So one, you said liquidity is at an all-time low, and you're specifically talking about the residential sort of home or just real estate market overall in the United States.
I'm talking about for retail investors.
Right.
So any retail investor that's making anywhere between 100K and 500K a year, they're low on liquidity right now. I'm talking to a lot of investors in the best investor like, dude, liquidity's low right now.
Right. So I love to look at liquidity, but I look at global liquidity.
Okay.
Because global liquidity is the amount of money in the system. It's not just the amount of money, it's the availability to add more money because of credit, which is a bigger conversation. We can side hold that, but a lot of people don't really understand this, but we're in a debt-based monetary system. So what that means is that money is created through debt issuance. And so when money is created through debt issuance, the dollar becomes the liability, the debt is the actual asset there. And so if you understand the mechanics of that, the money supply always has to grow. But let's sidebar that for a minute. So I want to look at the total amount of money in the system as well as the availability of credit to create more money. Now, I look at this globally because most assets, S&P 500, the Mag 7, Bitcoin, those are global assets. And so we can see that across the board, assets are at all-time highs. S&P, NASDAQ, Bitcoin, they're all at all-time highs because global liquidity is an all-time high. Now, the Fed and Europe, the ECB have been pretty tight, but Japan and China are blowing it out of the water. So globally, there's a lot of liquidity. Now back to the United States and the rates. So there's a couple things that are true about that. So number one, to your point, nobody wants to sell or refinance because rates are super high. So there's 2 things that are in the works right now. You've been seeing they're floating, removing the capital gains tax on houses. So that's part of the plan to remove capital gains is so that they can unlock this logjam in the real estate market. So if I'm an old person, right, my family's moved on, I'm in this big house, I don't want to sell because I have this big cap gains expense, and I don't want to 1031 into another building. So if they remove the cap gains tax, hey, I'll sell the home, I'll move on to a different home. So that's number one. And then number 2, the rates are coming down. I would say while that is there, and by the way, your boat's beautiful. I saw pictures of it.
Oh, thank you,
Good job on that. Good job on that.
We'll have to get you out there sometime and shoot. Maybe we should have done this podcast on the boat, man.
But what I want to say, though, is for people that are looking ahead, hopefully you mentioned like 5-year, 10-year timeframes. People that are looking ahead, rates are coming down. Within the next 6 months, they're going to be slashed drastically. And so if I'm a multifamily investor.
When you say that, 6 months from now, they're going to be slashed drastically.
Yeah.
What kind of when you say drastic,
Trump
what does that mean?
Trump wants them down 3 points.
Are we talking 50 basis points, 75 basis points?
Well, I mean, Trump wants them down 3.5 points. So he wants them down to 1.5%.
In what kind of time horizon?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to get the new Fed chair and what the new dot plot is. But I would imagine probably by the end of next year. By the next year, probably we're at that range. So what does that mean? Well, that means that
that's a bold prediction.
I might want to buy this multifamily property now that's run on a CapEx or cap rate, I should say, or a house, knowing that in a year from now I could refinance it and the valuation is going to go way up. And so we can use this to our advantage if we understand sort of where we're at. So to your point, liquidity is low. Liquidity isn't low. The banks are lending. The problem is the rates are high, and so it's hard to make deals work.
And we're in the trenches every single day, and so I forget that it's not supposed to be easy right now.
Right.
I forget that because we're in here building it, and we figured out a way to continue growing. And we're playing offense, but you just got to take what the defense is giving you, right? And so it's like, okay, we're in a high rate environment, but on the flip side, when we're in a low rate environment, there's a ton of buyer demand. It's hard to find deals.
Right.
I was like, well, right now we can find deals, and as long as we stay, obviously disciplined with our buy box, buying a great location, we can never replace location. We got to be able to buy below market value, and we have to have a clear path to add value. If we have those 3 things, as long as we have a long time horizon, it's hard to lose.
Yeah. And there's a market equilibrium. So back to your boat, right? So you bought this boat for 70% off of what it was a couple years ago, but to sell the boat you have now, you're also taking it.
Exactly.
Taking a discount. So it's like my boat isn't worth as much, but I can buy a new boat that's not worth as much either. My house is at an all-time high, but when I sell my house at an all-time high, I have to buy another house at an all-time high. So there's always like this equilibrium. The market's pretty efficient in that manner. So it's like the arbitrage would be the time. Sell at an all-time high or sell now and then buy a year later, right? And so we can arbitrage time, but currently the market's pretty efficient in that manner. So the market still works.
Yeah, and I think when I think about what you're alluding to with the rate environment, I really feel like the opportunity for those listening to this podcast right now that are looking to get into a deal, looking to play a little bit of offense. I think there's a good opportunity in the next 6 months because if you're saying it's true and actually plays out, and we do see significantly lower interest rates 6 months from now, and especially 18 months from now, well, guess what? A lot of these buyers that are on the sideline are always going to be
right
in the playing field.
And you want to front run that.
Yeah.
You want to get to where the puck is going to be, right? So like knowing, okay, in a year from now the rate's going to be way lower, I might want to move into position on this real estate deal within the next 6 months. And I know that I'm going to have to cover that payment for the next 6 months, but I anticipate rates coming down, which will push the valuation of that building up. And so I want to do that now. If I wait a year from now, then I'm going to be buying into that rush in the market. The market's going to be tight. There's not going to be any good deals out there.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about gold a lot, and you break this down very well. I think it's a very interesting topic because a lot of people aren't familiar with the history, but break down the history of gold.
Yeah, so I mentioned that we're in this debt-based monetary system. So that really started in 1971. Richard Nixon took us off of the gold standard. So what does that mean? A lot of people don't understand this, but gold had been money for 5,000 years. And what happened is gold was money. In 1913, this is pretty interesting. In 1913, we had the creation of the Federal Reserve and the IRS at the same time. So the Federal Reserve is going to create these artificial paper dollars that we're supposed to use as money. But why would anybody want to use that as money? Because we use gold as money. I got a good idea. We'll also create the IRS at the same time. So what we're going to do is make you go around for a year collecting these paper dollars and send them back to us.
That's crazy.
That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
So they created the Federal Reserve to print the dollars. They created the IRS at the same time to make you collect and send the dollars back to them, right? And what happened is the government started printing more dollars. At the time, the dollar was a claim, an IOU to the claim to the gold that was in the bank. So gold was $20, 20 US dollars for 1 ounce of gold. And what happened is that exchange rate held up, but the government, of course, printed way too many of the claims. So there weren't enough gold in the banks for the claims of the dollars they had created. And the problem was that the government owed gold. They owed gold because gold was money at the time. Now, at the time, people
if everyone went to the banks and cashed out their cash for the gold, there wouldn't be enough gold to give them, basically.
Right, yeah. And the problem was that in order for this to work, I had to put my gold in the bank, and they would give me the dollars back, and then we'd exchange dollars. Now, what happened is in 1933, the banks went on what's called a bank holiday. They shut down for a couple days. And so nobody could get access to the money in the bank. And when the bank decided to open back up, you couldn't get the gold out of the bank. What the government did was 2 things that were pretty bad. Number one, they made it where you're no longer allowed to own gold. The gold in the bank is no longer your gold anymore, and you can't own it. But don't worry, we're going to cash you out. So we're going to give you the money for the gold, but we're not going to give you the $20 per ounce. We're going to revalue gold or depreciate it. So now gold became $35 an ounce, which means you lost over half of your purchasing power overnight. So it wasn't bad enough that we lost the gold. Now we're stuck on this fake paper money system. But at the same time, they took half of my purchasing power away from me as well.
Now, what happened with Nixon and when Nixon took us off the gold standard? What exactly does that mean?
So the same thing. Of course, now the government repriced gold. Now it's $35 per ounce. But what did the government do? They did the same thing. So in 1944, so from 33 to 1944, the whole world got together, most of the world, and agreed in something called Bretton Woods Agreement. And the Bretton Woods Agreement is that the dollar would be backed by gold, and then all the currencies of the world would peg to the dollar. So that system worked, a Bretton Woods Agreement worked for a few decades, but of course the government did what the governments do, which is they printed way too many dollars. And the rest of the world started realizing this, and they're like, the rest of the world's like, hey, wait, hang on. We don't want these paper dollars, we'll take the gold. And so each nation started redeeming the paper dollars for the gold until the US was running out of gold. France sent over their warships to the United States to collect the gold, and President Richard Nixon in 1971 said, hang on, we're done. We're no longer going to give you gold for the dollars. So they basically defaulted on the debt that they had. And so that officially ended this gold window, or the gold-backed currency. And so since 1971, we've seen this money supply just continue to expand at a parabolic rate because there's no longer that gold backing to hold it there.
Mm. And that's what's led to a lot of inflation, but now the government can not print money.
Right.
And they haven't printed more than they set a record in the last 5 years, basically, printing 80% of the money supply.
Right. So as of right now, the government, so they just announced last week, the Treasury's borrowing estimates for the rest of this year. So and this is an increase. So what happens is that, again, we're in a debt-based monetary system. The government is spending more than they bring in tax receipts, right? So income taxes, capital gains taxes, et cetera. So the government is spending about $2 trillion more than what they're bringing in. And every quarter they have to give what their borrowing estimate is, and then they revise it. So the borrowing estimates went up. Now they're borrowing $1 trillion more for next quarter and $600 billion for the next quarter. So they're continuing to borrow more and more and more and spend more and more and more. We're in what's called fiscal dominance. And so what's happening is the U.S. government is spending so much money, and all the governments of the world are doing this. They're spending so much money, it's driving the economy. And so, when you look back to the Great Depression, the crash in 44 or 71, or the 2000.com or the 2008 Great Financial Crash, each one of those was the system got over-levered because of the debt that they created. And then things started deleveraging, right? People started defaulting on the debt and the whole system starts imploding. And the government would sort of allow that natural deleveraging to happen, and then it would sort of kind of cleanse itself and we could grow again. They tried to do that in 2008, and it didn't work. The system had become too levered up. So if we go back to 2008, we know, you're a real estate guy, housing, specifically housing, manufacturing, jobs in the housing sector really are an indicator of how well the economy is doing. So we saw housing starts collapse by 28% in 2006. But it took about 3 years before we got the bailout to happen. Then we saw Bear Stearns, the bank collapse, which was sort of known as the trigger that sort of got the entire banking system to collapse. From the time Bear Stearns collapsed, it took 7 months to get a bailout in place. Now, if we remember those timeframes and we fast forward to where we're at today, so they tried to allow the system to delever, they couldn't.
Now, if I look at the pricing history of real estate in most markets, 06 to 07 was higher than 06. And then 08 was when this big crash was happening. So when you said 06, it went down.
Yeah.
Where are you seeing that?
The housing starts. So remember, right?
A decrease in housing starts.
First we pull permits.
Yeah.
Right. So we can sort of see the rat going through the snake. Sure. Right. First we have to get the permits, then we have to get the financing. Right. So the housing started collapsing. So we knew in the future there's gonna be less houses. Right. We knew the market was gonna collapse. And so the point is that the government finally did a $700 billion. It's crazy. Back then it was such a big number. Today it's laughable how small it is. $700 billion to bail out the system. But let's fast forward to today. So in 2023, we saw 3 banks collapse, and the government bailed it out in 6 days. So there's zero appetite. We understand the system cannot deleverage anymore. And so when you understand that the government has no appetite to allow the system to deleverage, it can't because it's a debt-based system and the leverage is so high. We also understand that the government is spending $2 trillion more than they're bringing in, so they're driving the market. So when you understand it from that perspective, then you would realize that the only way we get a recession and crash now is by policy choice. We have to choose to not continue to spend and print the money. But when they just tried that with the Trump administration, they quickly found out that they can't, which is where we started, which is that it's not going to happen. The only way we can get our way out of this is to grow our way out. So instead of trying to allow the system to deleverage, it's a reverse crash. A reverse crash. So when people think of a crash, they think of asset prices cutting in half, right? Businesses going under. What we're seeing is a reverse crash.
What is a reverse crash?
So if we think about a crash back to 2008, my retirement account cut in half, my home price cut in half. In California, 60% in some of these markets, right? So my entire retirement got cut in half. My business went under. My business doesn't make as much as it used to. I took a lower paying job. So basically the outcome is that my standard of living went down, right? I don't have the money I used to have. I don't make the money I used to have, so I have to buy less now. A reverse crash is the same outcome, but different. So a reverse crash is that prices go up so fast. So my retirement account grows, my home valuation goes up, I make more money, but the prices of things went up even faster, so my money still buys me less. I can still afford less vacations, less new cars, so that the outcome is the same. My standard of living goes down, but the difference is instead of prices going down, prices go up.
That's interesting. So in a way, they did a little bit quantitative easing.
Right.
What is quantitative easing? What is it?
Yeah, so easing. So quantitative easing, or QE as we call it. So basically the Federal Reserve runs monetary policy and the government runs fiscal policy. So the government created, the Fed under monetary policy gave the banks more reserves. So they printed money to add to the capital base so the banks could then lend more money off of that capital they had. And a lot of mainstream financial analysts will tell you that was not inflationary because most of the money stayed at the banks. It never got to Main Street where you and I were spending it on things. I think that's wrong because we saw stocks and homes go back up to new all-time highs. But that's not inflation. That's asset appreciation. I'm a consumer. If I buy a home, my prices went up, right? So I think I don't like how these mainstream economists kind of split hairs. I call them factually correct, but intellectually dishonest. But that money stayed in the bank. But this is an important piece to understand. So right now, the banks are holding about $3.3 trillion of what we call sterilized reserves. So that means the bank are holding this $3.3 trillion and they're sterilized, meaning they can't use that to create more money off of. And the Fed is paying them to hold that money.
Why is that?
So it's called IOR, interest on reserves, because they don't want the money to get out to the street. Because if $3.3 trillion hits the street, we're going to see prices and inflation rage to a level we've never seen. I mean, just go back to 2020. In 2020, the government printed over $1 trillion of stimmy and sent it out as stimulus so people would go spend. And look what they did to prices. We're talking $3.3 trillion. So if that money gets out to the street, it's going to create massive inflation. But this is the piece we need to understand. The Trump administration has a plan to unlock that capital, and I think that $3.3 trillion is going to hit the street.
And talk about that plan. Like what would that look like? Pushing the 3.3 out in the streets, and how quickly would that take?
So what's happened is the Trump administration came in fast and furious with a whole bunch of stuff, and there's been a lot of executive orders that they've done, but specifically there's 3 executive orders we want to look at. So number 1, we just got past this Genius Act, and the Genius Act is basically a US dollar stablecoin bill. So a stablecoin bill is like a cryptocurrency. It's not like decentralized like Bitcoin, but basically I give $1, they give me a $1 token back. I can use the $1 token, right? So they passed this Genius Act, and there's a couple reasons why they did this. The Digital Asset Bill, this one called the Clarity Act, and what they want is they realize that like Tether is the largest stablecoin producer, and Circle is the second largest one. And there's between the entire ecosystem is about $250 billion of US dollar stablecoins. Well, the stablecoin, when they receive the dollar, what do they do with the dollar? Well, they're buying US treasuries. So the government has a problem. Scott Bessent, who's the head of the Treasury, his job is to sell treasuries. But when the government keeps printing more and more money, why does anybody want to buy the treasuries? So demand for the treasuries has fallen off. Nobody wants to buy the US debt when they're just going to print more money. You're going to give me 4%, but then you're going to print 10% more money?
Yeah.
Like, what does that do?
It's negative arbitrage.
So negative arbitrage. So the demand for US treasuries is going down. Meanwhile, currencies around the world are blowing up. Lebanon, Turkey, Argentina, Venezuela, they're facing double and triple digit inflation. So those people in those countries, they got to get out of those currencies. They want to get into the dollar, but the governments don't want to let them. So they do capital control laws, which keeps the people stuck in the local currencies, the Argentine peso, the bolivar, whatever. But they want dollars. So what the Trump administration's plan is to get US dollar stablecoins around the world, because now people can move into this digital US dollar token. But then all that money that comes in the dollar now buys US treasuries. But here's where the $3.3 trillion comes into play. So per the new bill that just got through, it was just in the last week or two, got passed, the Genius Act, it basically allows all banks to now go create stablecoins. So now JP Morgan, they're all announcing that they're going to create their own stablecoins. And they have this money, the $3.3 trillion sitting there, they can create stablecoins off of. It technically still stays in the bank. Technically, they could probably still make the interest reserves from the Fed because it still stays there. But now they can put the stablecoin token out into the street. And it'll increase the money supply, just like Stimmy did, to get people to start spending money again.
Dude, that's interesting, man. So I got a question. So with the banking system, I always hear, like when you deposit $100, they're going to lend out that $100 10x. Talk about what exactly is that?
Yeah, so that's what we call fractional reserve banking. So if you give them $10, they can take 9 of it and go lend it back out. But when they lend it back out, where does that money go? Well, someone bought a car, house, whatever, and that money goes back in the bank. And now they can take 9 of those dollars and make more, and then where does that money go? Well, it goes back in the bank, and then they loan more. But really, we're in a system now with no reserves. So we had that before. Now we basically just create as much money as we want. And so really, it really comes down to the demand. So number 1, the banks think about the risk. because they don't want to lose the money, obviously, number one. So what's the risk in the environment? And then number two, what's the demand? So the demand for money goes up and down. As you said earlier, the liquidity is low right now. Rates are high. People don't want to buy money when it's expensive. And so really that fractional reserve banking is sort of antiquated at this point. They just create as much money as they want.
So it's kind of archaic now.
It's a little bit archaic. It's not exactly how the system works anymore.
Yeah.
Now, there are reserve requirements. So the Fed does have reserve requirements and the Treasury as well. So that's another thing that Trump is trying to do to get around the Fed, is they can change the reserve requirements. They can just tell the banks, hey, you don't need to hold any money in your books. Just lend it all out. Not that they'd probably do that, but there are reserve requirements, just not quite like it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, if you're looking to get into real estate investing, but you're like, hey, I don't have the time, but you want to participate in the passive income, the tax benefits, and the wealth building, my company, Summers Capital, partners with limited partners, people like yourself, and we go out and buy boutique hotels. We have a fund where we currently own 5 hotels, and we currently have a wait list for investors to participate with us. If you want to learn more to see if this is a fit for you, you can go to summerscapital.com/invest to inquire and get on our wait list and be notified next time we have an opportunity. Again, summerscapital.com/invest. Now back to the show. So we know the Trump administration has been buying a lot of Bitcoin. You mentioned before we started recording, they've been doing this for the last 12 months, but specifically bought a big chunk. The Trump administration bought a big chunk of Bitcoin 2 weeks ago. Break that down.
Yeah, so I think this is super important, and everybody needs to be paying attention to this right now. And what I'm talking about specifically is the Trump administration's not...
Ooh, here we go. We're within $50 of the all-time high.
just view on Bitcoin, but their participation in it. So the Trump administration is more than just Trump. So we have Howard Lutnick, who is the head of the Secretary. He's the Secretary of Commerce. Now, he is from a company called Cantor Fitzgerald, which is OG heavyweight Wall Street. He had I think the top 6 floors in the World Trade Center when it blew up. I mean, they run New York Wall Street. Now, his firm, before Trump won, and before he became part of the administration, his firm Cantor Fitzgerald opened up a $2 billion Bitcoin credit line for institutions. That was a pretty big splash. Then his firm took a majority interest, controlling interest in MicroStrategy, which is the largest public traded Bitcoin sort of proxy. Then they bought into Tether, which is the largest stablecoin company. So the Cantor Fitzgerald, Howard Lutnick's company, Cantor Fitzgerald, is buying into the biggest part of the Bitcoin ecosystem. Then he joins the Trump administration and now becomes Secretary of Commerce, and he's heading up the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve and the Sovereign Wealth Fund, which are both buying Bitcoin. Now, he sort of had to remove himself out of the private market because he's working for the Trump administration. So his son now is running different versions of Cantor Fitzgerald, Cantor Equity Partners, for example, CEP. And now he's placed almost $10 billion with Bitcoin public companies now. He partnered with Jack Mallers to do one called CEP, which is partnered with Strike. He just launched another one just a few weeks ago with Adam Back, who's Mr. OG Bitcoiner. They launched a 30,000 Bitcoin fund. So the administration is still making moves a little bit removed. But then Trump himself, well, Trump's sons have been investing heavily into Bitcoin companies, a new Bitcoin mining company with HUD 8. And now Trump himself, when I say himself, DJT Media, Trump Media, which he owns controlling interest of over half of the company, just purchased $2 billion worth of Bitcoin like 2 weeks ago. So, Trump has this history, a track record of sort of telling the market what's about to come and even front running them. So the first quarter of this year, the markets were sort of selling off. All this fear of tariffs going to wreck the market. No one's going to do business with the world. So the markets had sold off.
Talk about the for this year, 2025 thus far, like just high level. Talk about the pricing of Bitcoin and kind of where it's navigated throughout the year.
So I'll say that, but let me just finish this thought. So Trump tweeted out or put on X or whatever a post. He said something like, now might be a good time to buy stocks or something like that. And the next day, with the next couple of days, we got announcements that trade deals were reached between some of the big countries like China. And since then, the markets took off. So he sort of like tells people like, hey, you might want to be buying. Like now's probably going to be a pretty good time. And so when he goes out and buys $2 billion worth of Bitcoin, we should be paying attention to that.
Yeah.
So if we look at the price action of Bitcoin this year, it sells off with most markets. It's more sensitive to liquidity than most other assets, which is why I told you earlier I look at the global liquidity. So what does that mean? That means when the money supply increases, assets go up with them, but not all on a one-to-one basis. So Bitcoin is about 8.9 times more sensitive. And gold is about 1.4 times sensitive to liquidity.
So liquidity.
So different assets move at different rates based off of that increase in liquidity. So when the market sold off in the first part of this year, we saw Bitcoin, drop from.
This is with all the tariff news when the stock market.
Yeah, all the tariff news. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and where was Bitcoin at?
So Bitcoin was in the 100,000, just over 100,000 range, and it sold off down to the 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not a huge drop off.
I mean, 20%, yeah. I mean, it's considerable. And then it recently got back up into the 120 range, and where we're at today, I don't know, in the 115 range, right? It's volatile. It goes up and down quite a bit. But if we look at
where would you predict Bitcoin? Obviously, we're all speculating, but assuming what you said about the rate environment happens and it plays out, and 18 months from now, we're in a 3.5% rate environment, where would Bitcoin pricing be in your estimation if that is true?
Yeah. So if we look at just since the trade deals, the tariff deals were announced, so that was about 12 weeks ago.
Yeah.
The S&P 500 is up about 25% in that time. Bitcoin's up about 50% in that time. MicroStrategy is up about 90% in that time. So we can see the sensitivity of these assets based off of the liquidity. Now, to answer the question, if we see rates come down 3%, we would assume then we'd have more liquidity, right? Prices would be going up. We have to kind of see what the rest of the world is doing, but it looks like the ECB is about to start adding liquidity at a rapid rate. So what do I mean by that? I think it was now a week or two ago, Ursula von der Leyen from the EU was in the White House. And Trump had her down. It was broadcast live, and he basically took her to school like a little schoolgirl and just got every concession with tariffs that he wanted, including having the ECB invest, I believe it was $900 billion into the U.S., buying U.S. military weapons, etc. Where does the ECB get the money? Oh, they print it, right? And so we're going to see this massive liquidity turn on, it looks like, through the rest of the world. So where does that put Bitcoin's price? I mean, that's the $1 million question.
Sure. Yeah, I know we're all speculating, but just curious, like, where you're predicting it.
So I'm predicting $1 million in 2030, $14 million in 2040, and $45 million in 2050.
Per 1 Bitcoin.
For 1 Bitcoin.
Damn.
Yeah.
Say that one more time.
Yeah. 1 million by 2030, 14 million by 2040, and 45 million by 2050.
So in the next 5 years, essentially, you're predicting a 10x in pricing.
Yeah, a 10x. I have a video.
That is a bold statement, Mark Moss.
Yeah, I'll give you the math.
Yeah.
I have a video on my channel
break
that
down.
breaks the entire math
down.
down.
Break it down high level for us.
Yeah, so we want to look at it from a couple different angles. So number one, when we make money, if we create more than we consume, we save it. So we put it into what we call store of value assets. So that's real estate is the biggest one. Stocks, bonds, gold, collectibles, fine art, things like that. Those are store value assets. In 2010, that basket of store value assets was about 350 trillion. Today, it's 1,000 trillion. Just so you can get an idea of how fast it's growing. 1,000 trillion or 1 quadrillion today. Now, why is that going up? Because we keep expanding the money supply. Now, the government, the U.S. government has the CBO, Congressional Budget Office, and they project out the budget of the U.S. government for the next 30 years through 2054. They tell us what the debt will be, what the deficit spending will be, what the government budget, so they tell us all this. So what we do is we go, okay, when the money supply grew this much, the store value basket grew at this rate. So if we continue this rate of growth, which the government projects for 30 years for, what does that mean for that basket of goods? So that's number one. So I projected that basket of goods, the store value assets, will be 1.6 quadrillion by 2030, based off of the rate that we're running and the money supply growth. The question then becomes, what percentage of that store value asset will Bitcoin capture? So if I'm creating Uber or Airbnb and you're going to invest, we're in Silicon Valley a decade ago. Let's say I want to start this rideshare app. You want to invest into it. You're like, I'm like, it's going to be 100 million. You're like, where'd you get that number? Well, the taxi industry is this big, the limo is this big, the vans. If I get 5% of those markets, right? So Uber and Airbnb both captured 10% of their markets in less than 10 years. By 2030, if Bitcoin can capture 1.25%, not 10%, 1.25% of that store value basket, it puts it at $21 trillion or $1 million per Bitcoin. Now, where do we think that number is realistic? We'll look at it from another way. So we can see that the growth rate of Bitcoin has been trending down, what we call the CAGR, the compounded annual growth rate. So in the last 5 years,
is that similar to like the law of diminishing returns?
There's a law of diminishing returns, right? So the law of large numbers. So as the number gets bigger, it's harder for it to keep going up at that rate. And so for the last 5 years, Bitcoin has gone up by 85% a year. The last 3 years, it's gone up by about 60% a year. I predict that it will continue the rest of the decade at least 50. It'll average 50% over the year. So it's gone already 85, 65, but I think we'll average the year at 50%. So if we average the decade at 50%, we'll get to 1.25% of the basket, which is $21 trillion for Bitcoin divided by 21 million is $1 million per coin.
Now, if it goes up 50% a year for the next 5 years, that doesn't theoretically get to the 10x that you're predicting.
Sure, because
it's
compounding. It's a compounded annual growth rate.
Okay, got it. So if you multiply it out,
so 100,000 becomes 150
times 1.5, it compounds and it gets us to 10x.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a bold prediction. We're gonna have to circle back and see where that holds.
Just for the audience.
I might have to start putting some money into Bitcoin.
Just for the audience, I've been making content on Bitcoin since it was $300.
Yeah.
And $1,000.
What year was that?
That was in 2016.
Okay.
Right, 2015, 2016. And so when Bitcoin was like 8,000, I said, hey, it's gonna be $100,000.
Yeah.
And so we've been writing.
People thought you were crazy then.
People still think I'm crazy.
What did I say about 120K?
I didn't look this one. It's probably 115-ish.
Okay, so let's call it 115-ish. And what year was it at 8,000?
Well, 2020 it dropped down to 3,800
when COVID hit.
When the COVID, so it dropped to 3,800.
So let's just say that you bought right during that dip in April of 2020 at 3,800. You would have done 30x on your money.
Yeah.
In 5 years.
Yeah. So I think we'll do 10x in the next 5 years.
Okay.
And it's important to understand this. And
now, real quick, where was it before COVID hit? Because it was pretty high, right? It was around 48,000. Is that right?
Maybe that sounds about right.
So if you look at it from that perspective, it's like 2.5x since 2020.
And then it went up to, in 2021 went up to about 69,000.
Yeah.
And then 2022 sold down to 15.9. I think was the lowest.
Who's the guy that says buy when there's blood in the streets? Nathan Rothschild.
Yeah, Rothschild said that. But I think
that would have been the perfect time to. That's the definition of blood in the streets, right when COVID dropped.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, man,
Yeah.
I have to admit, I kind of thought the world was going to end.
Yeah.
It looked like that could be the big crash, right? But I'd say what's important to understand is that we have this up and to the right with Bitcoin called NGU, number go up and to the right move, but it's volatile like this. So it's peaks and valleys. So what happens is we want to make sure when we're comparing prices, because you said, well, if I bought it at 45,000, it's different. There's a difference at when Bitcoin was 60,000 a couple years ago and 60,000 recently, because one was at the top of the cycle, the other one was at the bottom of the cycle, because it moves in these cycles up. So you don't want to compare the top to the bottom if you're trying to gauge where it's going to go in the future. But yeah, I think that's why I say, I mean, there's just no better place to put your money than Bitcoin. And we even see with real estate people like Grant Cardone are adding this into their into their real estate funds.
Yeah, last time I spoke to Grant was in January, and we did a podcast together. He came on, and that was the third time I was doing a pod, but he came down and he came to one of our meetups here in San Diego, Beers and Deals. But what he was telling me on the pod in January was, this was the first time he was doing it, but he was like, dude, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to do multiple funds with this strategy. But he had just tried it with one asset. He bought an apartment building in South Miami. And Grant typically funds these with his own cash, and then he'll backfill with investor cash.
Ooh, man. What up, dude?
I'm just playing some Undermine, streaming, listening to Bitcoin. I guess I could stream it to the Discord. Also,
Yeah, I'm watching other stuff. I don't really that interested in watching the game, sorry.
No problem.
Just suddenly getting stupid hungry is all.
I'm also hungry.
Got a free lunch.
That's dope.
Cause they, I just asked for a refund because they gave me fucking undercooked nuggets. I had eaten the sandwich and the fries and the drink.
Ugh.
I saw that they gave, yeah, I went up there. As soon as I saw Undercooked Nugget, I'm like, what the fuck? And I went up there and brought him up there, and then another guy behind me was also bringing his nuggets up.
No
And the
way.
other kids are like, oh yeah, we just ate them. I'm like, man, I'm like, what'd you eat them for? Like, you get sick.
Yeah.
If you see raw chicken, you got to bring it up to the counter, get your refund. I actually kind of raged out in there because I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I ain't no excuse for this. It's chicken nugget at McDonald's, right? Like, you drop them in, press the button. When it beeps, you pull them up.
Right.
If you pull them out early, you're a fucking retard and you deserve to be fired. That's basically it, right? Like, there's not even a question. The only other way they could end up undercooked is if the fryer wasn't up to temp, but it wouldn't even let you fucking use the timer if it wasn't up to temp. Okay, I guess there's another way. You put 2 bags of nuggets in one fucking fryer thing.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
2 bags in one basket, but like they don't have a need for that. Like McDonald's just has so many fryers, right? Like, I don't know. No matter what, it only happens from like laziness and cutting corners and shit, right?
Yeah.
I'm watching right now is another Asmongold video. It says Chicago mayor is a professional retard. Lori Lightfoot got ousted, and now the new dude that's up there is just as dumb.
Oh, I almost attacked that pilfer. I almost attacked that pilfer. Really sucked to hit one now, dude. I'm so close. You gotta pay 100,000 gold to the pilfer fountain. And then they give you a blessing that you have to walk all the way to the end of the 4th zone. And if you can do that, you get access to the secret pilfer zone. Only problem is, if you hit any pilfer between here and there, you lose that buff.
Mm.
And the pilfers come every time there's gold on the ground. So you have to be like super
Oh,
careful.
shit.
Yeah, not attack. You're, like trying to steal your gold, and you just like attack them away. That's like the normal go-to.
Right. You have to deliberately avoid that now, and if you lose the gold, you lose the gold, I guess. Just so you can get to this thing.
Exactly. So I already lost one earlier today. So I'm trying again.
Metro Detroit elected officials charged with voter fraud. Hamtramck City Councilman.
How does that not surprise me?
Yep. It's all the Bangladeshis that fucking live in Hamtramck.
Bangladeshi.
Bangladesh is a lot like India, but is even poorer because India fucks them over.
This is the hard
Like
part.
the whole nation is in a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll say this is the hard part, dude. Sometimes the gold busts right in the middle of the enemies. Then the enemies are coming at you while the pilfers are running in for the gold, and it's like, no! You have to like not attack the enemies because the pilfers are surrounding them.
Go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna say like the whole nation of Bangladesh is like a series of river deltas, and India decided to dam like all of the rivers heading into the country.
Damn them to hell.
It's like, oh, we get hydroelectric power, we get water, you get nothing. All these comments on this video are great, bro. As a resident in Hamtramck, it's much more widespread than that. I'm shocked there weren't any charges sooner. 128 upvotes. These guys should be deported. 41 upvotes. Wow, the thing that never happens happened again.
That's pretty much the gist of it.
Not born here in USA, no public office, period. 70 upvotes. This is what I'm talking about, right? Go figure, from a Muslim community. You mean landfill? Jeez.
No! I just lost it.
Dang.
There was a golden pilfer. So I was very carefully attacking him only where there was no other pilfers around, and I guess one must have like come out of the ground underneath him like while I was attacking on him.
Oh.
Yeah, that sucks. But Bitcoin is right at old all-time high. Oh no, wait, it's not. What is the old all-time high? Yeah. It's within like $50 of all-time high. Oh no, wait, it just broke new all-time highs. Yep, just hit all-time high. Brand new all-time high.
Cracked 123 for a second.
Yep, it's still over 123 right now.
Here's a weird. Oh, fucking goddamn it! I tabbed away and now the headline's not there. Fuck. God damn it! I should have just done it first. I can't stand how YouTube frequently. It's like, oh, you tabbed away and tabbed back. Well, we're just gonna refresh everything.
Yeah, I do hate that.
It was about like Florida, like $167 million Powerball winner gets arrested after kicking deputy or something. Some body cam footage. It's like, for real, you're gonna win $167 million and then fucking ruin it by fucking, there it is. Yeah, $167 million Powerball jackpot winner gets tased after kicking Florida deputy.
Mm-hmm.
And everything, right? Like, I saw some shit earlier claiming Obama is Hitler's grandson. That his mom was like the product of like Hitler banging his housekeeper. And that Angela Merkel in Germany is Hitler's like direct daughter. And they actually look very fucking similar.
Interesting. that's the relic that killed me last time. I have this sword that temporarily increases damage when attacked, but I had the Alglycerin running, so it was running bombs. I kept hitting myself with bombs, and each bomb that hit me, I think, increased my bomb damage. And so like the third one did like 1,000 damage to me when it hit me. Here we go. Price discovery, dude. Yeah. Figure it out. Fuck yeah. Alright, boss 3. Here we go. Oh, my attack speed is so tremendous. This boss has no chance to survive. I almost had him before he was able to change this phase of attack. I almost got him before he went to phase 2. Yeah, it's jumping, dude. Yes! Yes! Here we go. Here we go. It's broken free, dude. It's broken free. Oh, fuck. Alright, zone 4. Hopefully, somewhere in this zone, I can find the fountain again. Pay it another 100,000 gold. Get the buff. And then not lose it. I do have just over 100,000 to give to it. No! Oops. Oh no, I think I just skipped a room. Oh wow.
Oh yeah, I didn't bring up that other earlier video about that fucking zombie in Colorado, bro. I can't believe that they're letting him out, and that he got let out previously for the same thing. It's like this is a second offense, and you're gonna let him go? Like, what the fuck?
It was like 4,
What
wasn't
the
it?
actual fuck? Or something like that, yeah. Like he's been a number of arrests, but I think maybe this is the second time trying to kidnap a kid or some shit. Like, you really gonna give this guy a third, fourth, fifth chance? Like, what the fuck?
Wow.
Absolutely fucked.
Yeah.
The dude said he was a transgender woman. It's like, oh my god. He's like playing every card he can, and then they're just letting him go.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, yeah, I'm mentally retarded. Yeah, I'm a transgender. Yeah, this and that. Fucking, just let me go. Like, go fucking kidnap kids. And the
Right.
court's like, okay.
Right.
It's like, really? Really? Like, you're not just gonna go fucking take this guy out back and put a bullet in his brain? Like, what the fuck, dude?
Oh, this is America, bro. We don't do that.
They used to. They used to hang people. Public square, just whoop. A pretty good argument, right? Like, it's the it's, it's actually pretty likely. It's that it's the whole Hegelian dialectic, the problem, reaction, solution thing, right? The whole idea is like, okay, you let the Democrats have the show for 4 years, and then they fuck everything up, and that's the problem. So you get the desired reaction of getting Trump voted in, and then the solution that he gets to present is the authoritarian police state. But it's what the authoritarian left and the authoritarian right has wanted all along. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like Trump is just controlled opposition, and especially like it seems more and more like that all the time with all this Israel shit, right? You know, from the minute they took a shot at Trump's head, and then the day after that, he like you know, picks JD Vance as his vice president. Like it seemed immediately obvious that he was just going to capitulate to the fucking Israelis and the CIA and shit, because they threatened his fucking life. It's like, what the fuck else is he gonna do? You know what I mean? It fucking sucks, but that seems to be what's going down. It's like, yeah, none of us like what the Democrats are doing, but I'm not really looking forward to full-on authoritarianism in the police state, you know? They almost got me to want it too, you know what I mean? Like, shit got so bad, I'm like, damn it, bring on the fascism, clean the streets up, but that's like the whole fucking point. And then once they clean the streets up and the fascism's in play, and then the Democrats take power, then they start cracking down on free speech and shit, you know what I mean? That's what really sucks, is not what happens during the Trump years, but what happens if the Democrats ever get to fucking get control of the government again. I don't know if you watched that Nick Fuentes video I had put up last night, where he's like basically saying who's a CIA asset and who ain't.
Yeah, Jason and I were watching that, laughing at that.
And everybody on X is saying it's like the only way he can get away with saying shit like this, if it's true, is if he's being protected by somebody equally powerful. It's like they're saying like Nick Fuentes is the FBI asset, and this is like the FBI at war with the CIA. And that seems to be what's happening, right? It does seem to be a deep state civil war underway over the last few months.
Wow. I may be fucked as far as that buff, dude. It's probably the case. Oh, I didn't do that right. Oh well. Oh freaking well. No way, it's another popcorn kernels? That's insane. That was insane. I just used popcorn kernels in this room like 5 times and just kept doubling all the bombs and keys, and the room's like full of... Oh my god, there's another popcorn kernels. I could have doubled it again before picking them all up. Oh my god. There we go. Oh my god, there was another popcorn kernels. Okay, there we go. We're maxing. Oh my god, dude. Oh my god. Just use popcorn kernels to double the items in the room like 6 times, which obviously 6 doublings is like an insane amount. I'm at 78 bombs and 99 keys, dude. I'm maxed out. $99 keys, dude, with the Keyblade adds 198 damage to my swings. Come on, give me the fountain. Give me the fountain. No. I think once again I'm gonna miss it because I lost the buff again, dude. Oh, bummer. There's a small chance I find the room real quick, but it's basically... I'm about done with this run. I'm just praying for the final room to show up with the fountain, but yeah, pretty much fucked it up. That's right, we go again! Gives us a reason to go again, I guess.
None.
Yeah, I think this is the last room. Shouldn't have attacked that damn golden pilfer, dude. Got all excited for the golden pilfer. Like, yeah. That's what you shouldn't have done. Yep. Wasted the run. Damn it. But we were live for the Bitcoin all-time high. Or the most recent one. So that's pretty cool. And that boss went down without touching me. Nice. And when your Keyblade does 200 damage a swing, like, you're rectal. Oh my god, it's way later than I thought it was. I guess after I'm done with this run, and be down to like do something or watch something if you want.
At some point. Some point soon, I'm gonna be fucking taking a bike ride to go get some food.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I was gonna get some food and like right after this, I guess is what I meant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's gonna take me a lot longer to get food and get back here.
Right.
I'm not even excited about doing it. I already did that today.
Yep.
At least it's cooler today. I just I don't think there's any food I can get here. Tonight is Wednesday, and they're doing their D&D group or whatever. And I think usually Wednesday is the day Ryan just looks for their group. I don't think there's gonna be any leftovers.
Honestly, I was pretty excited to make popcorn. I don't know why. I just wanted to just make popcorn and just fucking chill. Eat some popcorn and chill. Watch a movie or some shit. This potion duplicator familiar is insane. Like once you get them to max level, every time you use a potion you have a chance to drop a new one. So you just like use potions you don't even need and it's just like keeps spawning you new potions for free. It's insane. So good.
Apparently, I'm 4 points away from a free regular size jersey mics.
Nice.
Can't use that. Can't get the points straight. Like it's as if I had that points, I was gonna cash them in, but I don't.
Too much damage, dude. Just too much damage. They can't handle it. This build's insane. Attack speed's through the roof. Swing range is mega. Damage is absolutely capped. This run's about to end in absolute glory. Alright, this is it. Final boss. Get wrecked. Let's go. Yeah, I forgot that I can start with this thing. I forgot about this move. You chug this and then you drop down. And then when you jump down, you're already damaging him like in the intro. I wonder if he dies before the thing. I wonder if he dies before the fight starts. No, he didn't. I almost had him dead before the fight started. He hit me one time, right at the very last second. That was super cool. I drank like the fireball potion, so like you shoot fireballs out from your body like in a rapid manner, like all around you. But it lasts for like 10 seconds, so I drank it just before I jumped into the boss portal. And then once I jumped in, it was firing off while the boss was doing like his intro when I like couldn't move. But meanwhile, it's just like pelting him with fireballs. I actually almost killed him before the fight started.
Yeah, some cheese.
Okay, run complete. Thanks for watching. Appreciate y'all. Bitcoin at 123,370. New all-time high today. Enjoy your life. Peace, y'all.